नमस्ते आदाब सत श्री अकाल। आज यावर जी का दिन था मगर यावर जी आज ना आ सकेंगे। Very kindly he's offered the show to us, but he didn't offer it, we took it off him, and I'm grateful still that we have to keep alive the issue of Palestine. The reason I'm speaking in English because we are expecting some English people to come. Dipu, is David coming?
He's coming 10-15 minutes.
Okay, so David's coming, so we don't have, and Dipu's Hindi is so not brilliant
It's
either.
fantastic, my Hindi.
All he says is khamosh.
Khamosh. My headphone's not working.
Your headphone, why should it work? At least your mouth is working.
I like to hear my voice.
We don't, so it's okay. So yeah, very good evening to you everybody. Dipu, welcome home. I'm glad you're back to your twins.
I still can't hear myself, Doc.
You don't have to. We'll just plug elsewhere and check what's working. Just try plugging elsewhere. Look at him, he's not even plugged and he can't hear. What do you think? Is the IDF?
I still can't hear myself.
Well, just plug into different holes and see what comes out.
We're not aware at the moment, are we?
So anyway, here we are with Dipu Ahad, the guy who was arrested by IDF for 8 hours. He thinks 15 hours. I think some people are claiming he was kept overnight. And you know the story is a bit like Abu Ben Adam, may his tribe increase.
True.
But the truth is, Dipu, while the others are not here, let's talk about what Syed doesn't know what happened on that particular day. Let's just talk about Bilin for now, because when the others come, we'll expand the story.
Do I get my headphones first?
Well, try some, see if anything works.
Snatch another one and put it on.
Yeah, this is Spice, you know. How do you expect anything to work? Eh? You got anything?
No.
Well, I can't do a show and be running as well.
Take the third one.
So take any headphone, plug anywhere.
Leave it, we do without headphones.
Okay, we'll do without headphones. Chalo. Jodi introduction hai ke na she tobe headphone bina cholo re. So Dipu, just what happened? Let's tell Syed and the listeners. Thank you for listening.
Yes.
On Friday, about 2 o'clock, we arrived in Bilin, 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 right? And I got a bit lost because I went to get my stand. And there was a huge Irish contingent who were very brave, you know. They had proper Irish Palestinian flags.
Right.
So I got talking to them and it was so hot. I got tired, I got lost. I said, chodo nahi hoga. I'm just sweating, camera is heavy and so on. Then suddenly there was a press fellow who was going. He said, do you need help? I said, yes. So he took me to where I almost gave up on, and that is too near the wall. Dipu, describe, you've been there before.
Okay, Bilin is...
Keep talking, I'll see if I can get to the headphone.
It's in West Bank, and what they've done is the Israelis for many years, as you know, as everyone knows, there's an apartheid wall which goes all around Palestine, grabbing land, blockading Palestinian land, taking Palestinian land.
Is this the land that, the wall that divides Jerusalem from Hebron, or?
No, this, well, the whole wall actually divides, well, the so-called the occupied territories from Israel. So basically, and it's a wall, yeah, I can hear myself now. So it's a wall which is...
Mine's gone. Stop.
Not very...
Oh, carry on talking, never mind.
So basically, let's make it clear. So basically, this wall, the wall is, if you know Palestine, there's a apartheid wall which goes throughout Palestine, which grabs a lot of the Palestinian land, and it's an apartheid wall. One of the wall is in Bilin, or one of the bits of the wall is in Bilin.
Okay.
Which has took a lot of the land of the Palestinians in that area. So Bilin is a village, and for almost 19 years, almost 20 years now, there is a weekly protest in Bilin, and that happens after Friday prayer, Jummah prayer. And after Jummah prayer, you get people marching towards the wall and protesting. Remember, it's a peaceful, non-violent protest, and people are basically coming to protest against the wall, and about the land grab, against the land grab. And basically, you have the international community who comes as well to this protest. So some, you know, I've been there last year. Last year we had people from Holland, from France. We had hundreds of people last year. This year, there wasn't as many people, but there was still an international community as well.
Was it the same time you went last year?
Yes,
I remember you sent a daily report, which I read every time it came through the Facebook.
So it's Bilin, again, it's the same protest. It's quite famous. Yeah. So the 5 broken cameras, if you ever watch this documentary,
in Netflix, if you can look at 5 broken cameras. It's a real story by a real man.
It could be on YouTube as well.
No, you have to buy it. But Netflix, you just get it anyway.
I get it, yeah.
And you can see it in parts if you wish.
Right.
Okay, so but tell us, Dipu, when we went, there were about a whole big bus load of Irish people, French people, men and women, with the Palestinian flag. They were really brave. They were honest and strong. and they were quite happy to be themselves. We were slightly shy about. We just had a T-shirt which said what in Hebrew.
In Hebrew, it said peace. English, peace, and in the bottom Arabic is peace.
So salam, shalom, and peace.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And nothing aggravating. Just a black T-shirt with saying peace.
No,
Gentlemen, since the two of you are the ones who've just been across to Palestine and Israel for a whole week, and I take my hats off to you, because even you won't realize as of today what the world is going through. Today I listened to Mr. Obama's speech, which was particularly set up with the United Nations meeting today in New York, particularly with the view of reminding the world and passing a resolution in respect of the ISIS or ISIL, whatever we call it. And the shocking part of it to me individually is that there is not a single word was mentioned by all these countries with respect to the killing that went on in Gaza.
The killing that's going on. So let's get back to Bilin. Let's get back to Bilin.
Okay. Bilin and Palestinians is a dirty word for the international community. Right. So basically, basically what happened was then. So I was protesting and not protesting. We were observing from the international community, and obviously
the most horrible thing I had was a camera.
Oh,
nothing more than that.
It's like a weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Doc Anand, obviously, he kind of disappeared. So I was kind of looking for Doc Anand. But at that time, there was a lot of tear gas. So if the wind is blowing a certain way, it doesn't matter where you are, the tear gas will hit you.
And you call it tear gas, but it burns the skin.
It burns
your throat long before you get tears.
Exactly.
So there's something really toxic. And I was Azra was saying today that until today, and same here, 4-5 days you bring up a lot of sputum. It is nasty stuff.
Yeah.
And remember that microphone shouldn't be touched. It's a spice mic.
Is it just the tear gas, or has it got anything in it?
I think calling it tear gas is wrong. It's not tear gas. It's a very toxic gas.
Okay.
I'm not allergic type of person. I have no asthma, nothing. And still, my skin was burning and my throat was burning. So there's some nasty toxic stuff. And remember, we are just civilians from Britain observing the people. Now, what's the fight about? Tell us in your voice. What is the quarrel at Bilin about? What is the protest about that wall? Tell us about that wall.
So basically, I went towards, so I was looking for Dr. Anand, and at that time there was a lot of tear gas. So the tear gas were obviously I was towards the back by then, and we just started going towards the wall. And so there was a lot of tear gas. So what I had to divert my the way I was walking because of the tear gas, and it was obviously quite heavy, and it's hard to breathe, and you can see your visibility was minimized, and basically reduced, and basically eventually went towards the front looking for Dr. Anand, and obviously avoiding tear gas, and I was right in front of the wall. And I thought it would be safe there, standing next to the international community, meaning the media. So there's a lot of media there. So there
was 5 or 6 cameramen with proper press written across.
Oh, okay.
Some of them had gas masks on. These are proper people who interview people, not like me,
and this was because
kid on
of
the block.
Big protest which goes on Friday.
But that was only about 40-50 international people that day and that time, and there was no threat to nobody.
And who was protesting then?
Well, we had gone to observe. I got lost because I went to the bus to get my tripod.
Right.
Okay. So I got a tripod. These guys in the meantime went elsewhere. It was hot, sweaty, and it's not flat land. You can't see anybody. It's like tea gardens. It's like terraces.
Right.
But made of stone.
Okay.
And then you can't see each other, and the roads are windy all over the place. You just can't see.
Right.
And my phone, where was your phone, Dipu? Did you leave it in the bus or did you carry it?
Sorry?
Did you have your phone on you?
So basically, I had my phone on me.
Now, he's the seasoned Palestinian observer.
Right.
I'm the first time. So I left my phone in the bus saying, phone toot jayega, or they'll hit it, break it. They just don't care. Now I have no phone.
Right.
It's 41 degrees. I'm sweating. I'm carrying a camera. And Dipu's looking for me, and I'm looking for the group. And what is Dipu's crime? That he was ahead of the game, and he was seen. That's all. He didn't do anything whatsoever.
Okay, so let me just finish the story, and then we'll have a chat, because it's quite important. So basically, I stood there next to the international community, so the photographers and press. So I started filming the protest. People, there was no stone thrown whatsoever towards the wall or the Israelis who are standing behind the wall. So I stood there for a while, and at that point there wasn't many tear gas, but they were throwing bombs. They weren't like obviously bombs which would kill you, but they were bombs just to scare people off.
So they made a big impact.
Yeah, they made a big impact. So I was trying to film those, and and basically there was tear gas and rubber bullets. So I stood there, and the next thing you know, the gate slowly opens. The gate.
So in the wall, there is a steel gate that slowly is creeping open.
Okay, that's in the wall that divides
Yeah, so there's a
the
gate there.
settlements to.
Yeah.
From the
Hebron.
Palestinians, yeah.
Yeah. So that gate is slowly opening, and next thing you know, and I was a bit confused, everyone starts running. Everyone starts running, so I started running with them.
Running back to base, not towards the wall, away from the
Okay,
wall.
Away from the wall. And basically, if you see my Facebook, I've already put my film right in front of the wall. Anyway, so I start running, and because of the tear gas, I was quite heavy. I couldn't breathe properly because of the tear gas. And next thing you know, while I was running, I was actually running alongside the media.
Right.
And I twisted my ankle. I had a bad ankle from the
He
day
started with
before.
a bad ankle.
Okay.
And I started running, and I twisted my ankle. It was really bad because I heard it click, and I thought I'd broken my ankle.
Oh,
So I carried on running or hobbling, and at that point the Israelis came out of the tanks and started chasing me. They started chasing me, and I ran for a bit, but I thought, look, I cannot catch up with those guys. I can't breathe properly. I couldn't run properly. And then next thing you know, there was rubber bullets flying right next to me. You can feel them, that they're whizzing past me. They wanted to get me. And basically, what I did is I said, look, I can't outrun I might outrun the soldiers, but I can't outrun the rubber bullets. So I turned around, put my hands up, and said, look, come on, get me.
And
So
we've got pictures to prove that as well.
obviously,
But why did they go after you individually and not any other person?
maybe because I fell behind because of my twisted ankle. I don't know. At that time, everything was vague. Everything was because at that time, it was blurred. Everything was blurred. I was just concentrating on running and running away from the IDF. So next thing you know is I put my hands up and said, look, they came along, 6 of them together, pointing their guns towards me, and they held me, and then they eventually took me. And I said, look, I'm an international observer, I'm a British citizen, I'm a politician, what the hell are you doing? They said, shut your mouth, shut your mouth, shut your mouth. I was hobbling at that time, so look, I've got twisted ankle, take it easy.
Right.
So eventually they took me to a military vehicle, put me in the vehicle, and then handcuffed me, and then handcuffed me. Then slowly the military vehicle took me behind the wall.
Back through the gate.
And once I got there, I seen bits what's going on. There was a bit of a bench. There's a lot of Israeli officials there, IDF. And then they got my scarf and they blindfolded me.
With his own scarf?
With my own scarf, quite tight. I said, what the hell are you doing? I'm a British politician. What the hell are you doing? They go, shut your mouth, shut your mouth. At that point, I was obviously quite distressed because I was quite confused what's going on, especially when you're blindfolded. You do not know if they're going to shoot you next or what have you. I said, look, release me. I'm a British politician. What the hell are you doing? They said, shut your mouth. They kicked my injured foot because they knew it was twisted and I was in distress. They kicked that, and they kicked my injured foot, and then somebody said, I said, what the hell? I said, what are you doing? Another guy then I can feel hit me with his gun. Obviously I'm blindfolded still.
With the butt of the gun.
Yeah, I don't know which bit of the gun, but I can feel a metal piece or a hard piece hit me on the left side of the shoulder.
Oh boy.
And then I said, look, I just shut my mouth and I just said, look, I need you to relax myself. At that point my mouth was dry, you'd been tear gassed, and I couldn't speak properly. I said, look, can you give me some water? This again said, shut your mouth, shut your mouth. Eventually somebody got me water and they put it towards my lips and they keep on withdrawing it.
But not letting him drink the water.
They're teasing me, basically.
Taunt him, tease him.
It's terrible. It's a kind of a torture. At that particular
that is
moment,
torture,
you must have been distressed.
Emotional.
At the first half an hour I was quite distressed. So basically then what happened was, so they were teasing me. There was 7 IDF, you can vaguely see them, 7 or 8 IDF surrounded me. And just,
IDF means Israel Defense Force. People.
And they were watching me and mocking me. They were laughing, mocking me, and taking selfies with me. So I'm in a distress, and they're taking pictures while I was sitting there in distress. They were taking pictures. I can hear the click of the camera, and they were doing that for a while. So I was blindfolded for at least an hour and a half. Obviously, you won't know the time properly because obviously, you haven't got a watch with you. I said, look, in my pocket, there's a business card of me being a politician. Take that out. Take that out. They told me to shut up. Eventually, somebody put their hands in my pocket and took some of the business cards. Again, I can hear them laughing, ripping it, and mocking me and joking around. And, then said, you Palestinian, are you Arab? you're Arab. You know, they're mocking me like that and all laughing.
Terrible.
Then the second bit is after that, an hour and a half, around an hour and a half. I won't know the time properly. They took me towards. They took me to another police station, where it was 5 minutes drive. It was a military zone police station. It was still in the West Bank, obviously, in the occupied territory. They sat me down for a while. At that point, they did take my blindfold off, and I still had the handcuffs on. At that point. Sorry, going back, the initial bit, Berlin, when they kicked me and mocked me, took the pictures on me. At that point, there's another Israeli who come, and he had been arrested as well. And he said to me, you know, whispered in my ears, he goes, "Don't worry about it, just keep calm, don't worry." And I can hear the Israelis condemning him, saying, "Shut up." And obviously Hebrew, I couldn't understand, but I assumed it was Hebrew. Right. So I went to the second police station, and they put me there for 2-3 hours. I was in distress. My ankle was so swollen, it was like the size of a small football. It was really bad. Oh, my God. And what I was doing...
Instead of saying... take you to a hospital, a clinic.
So and he's unarmed, by the way.
Yeah. So totally unarmed, and you're handcuffed as well, which is another.
It's unnecessary.
Yeah.
And by the way, in the picture there you'll see there's 3 to the left and 3 to the right. It takes 6, 18, 20-year-olds to put Dipu down.
I would have thought the IOF would be more considerate, the Israeli Offence Force, as I call them.
Yeah, so basically after that, I was sat there for 2-3 hours. I put some water. There was the other Israeli. There's another Israeli guy was captured. One's a barrister and one's a humanitarian. So both of them were sat next to me, and basically one of the Israelis. He said, you know, don't worry about it, keep calm. And he offered me water, and they condemned him, said, sit down. Did
you get to drink the water then?
Eventually I did, because you know the Israeli helped me, and then he got a bottle can from the vendor machine. He paid. He had some change. It was a vendor machine, thankfully, and he got a can of Coke and wrapped it around my ankle.
Wow.
Anyways, then what happened was they eventually, but we were there for 3-4 hours, just sitting there doing nothing, and then the Israelis come along, took me to this room, and said, sign this. And in this room, basically, they were sitting there watching TV. There was plasma screens and all sorts.
Okay.
And they said, sign this. I said, what's this? They said, well, to say that we did not harm you in any way. And they were so arrogant, it's unbelievable.
Was this document in English?
No, this one is in Hebrew.
Which he doesn't read.
I said to him, look, you know, you did harm me.
You could be signing your life away.
Yeah, you did harm me. You did hit me. I'm not going to sign this. He goes, sign. So I said, look, it's best to just sign it, because I wanted to get out as soon as possible.
And not be beaten up further.
And then...
you could have been tortured.
Okay, and then what happened was they come up with another form about half an hour later, handwritten Hebrew, saying, sign. I goes, why am I signing this? They said, sign. So the other Israeli who was captured, he read it, goes, they said that they offered you medical support. I goes, they did not offer me any medical support. I've been distressed for 3-4 hours. Then eventually I said, look, it's best to just sign it, abide by what they're saying, do not get into an argument, and sign it. During
this time when you were signing the documents, where were these Israeli boys who'd been captured as well, or arrested?
They were in the same room as me.
But could they confirm that this document was okay to sign?
Yeah, the barrister guy, he told me, look, this is what he's saying. He read it for me.
Okay.
He was quite confident because he's a barrister.
Right.
So basically, I wanted to go to the toilet and what have you. They won't allow me to go to the toilet. But eventually, when I did, they stood not in the cubicle, but they stood outside the toilet with the door open. Basically, so all that nonsense, and then eventually they put me in another military vehicle, and took me and the other barrister Israeli to another police station in Benjamin. It's about half an hour drive, 40 minutes drive from where we were.
Right.
And then, after they took me there, interrogated for another 4 hours. They asked for my passport, and at that point, I called David and said, David, my passport's in my bag in the minibus.
Right.
Can you go and get the passport?
And very interestingly, David has arrived even in the studio.
Yeah.
It's always David to the rescue.
David came to the rescue, and basically I was there till about 10:30 p.m. and then released because of that. Yeah, so that's it.
That was the initial ordeal, which...
Yeah.
Luckily for you, ended without further tragic circumstances. Good evening, David.
Good evening.
I heard the announcement on BBC Radio.
Yeah.
The first day when they announced about yourself and and you were
Iron Toe
speaking about the arrest of Dipu as well.
So Dipu has been recounting the story of Dipu's
Yes.
arrest.
Okay.
Because you know about it, so we thought we'd start with that.
Yeah.
Go on, you ask them. I was there, so I
Yes,
don't.
it was, Dipu has basically related the entire incident which took place at Berlin,
Yeah.
next to the big wall. And it's really a terrible and shocking state of affairs that we've been told about, because you had the personal experience of that and you were all there together. And what can one say? I mean, I've been, and this, unfortunately, the world is bent so single-mindedly against the plight of the Palestinians that nobody is even willing to acknowledge it,
Yeah.
rather than just, condemn what the atrocities that have been committed against these people, children,
Yeah.
women, and of course civilians who are completely helpless.
Yeah. Well, I think I call that silent complicity.
It's terrible. I mean, I have today witnessed on the television the United Nations resolution passed today. The meeting was held especially for this thing going on in Iraq and Syria, and a resolution was passed, and all the countries together joined in and condemned it. But the sad part is that the Palestinians' plight is probably never going to be lifted to the point that you and Doc Anand and everybody is doing here, and it's a terrible situation with the world viewing that as something they shut their eyes to totally.
Because David, I mean, I'm most hurt the way the Palestinians are. They're very decent people. My impression of Arabs has never been good because of Saudi Arabia and its kingdom and monarchy and that upper hand and we do what we like kind of attitude. But these are very different kettle of fish. Would you agree? They're soft, gentle, quiet, law-abiding. They even stop for you at the pedestrian crossing.
True.
They're so gentle.
Yeah.
Aye ji. We even got
Assalamu alaikum.
councillor, alderman, honorary.
Being promoted.
Yes, Sajawal Khan Sahab. So,
I
really,
think I think the
what do you think? Go
well, I
on.
think picking up on the point that was just made, the really sad truth is that I think in the eyes of the Western world, certainly in the eyes of the leadership of the Western world, the life of a Palestinian is worth less than your life or my life, worth less than the life of a person from Britain, worth less than the life of an American. That's the only conclusion you can draw. And the fact that the leaders of the Western world ignore, in silent complicity, the plight of the Palestinian people. I mean, you can't, to go there and experience it is one thing, but actually, you pick up a book, you do a Google search, you watch the news, you can see the condition in which the Palestinian people are being forced to live. This is an illegal occupation, illegal not just in words. I'm not just saying it's illegal. It's illegal in the eyes of international law. The United Nations has determined that the occupation and the blockade of Gaza is a breach of international law, yet it's ignored. And I think that really just shows that we and others have no credibility on
The
international
entire
issues
saga
at all.
of
We created this problem as well.
yes,
Balfour
yes.
created.
Historically, yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's
because the lease in the initial lease before 1948 was
Ottoman Empire.
handed
Yeah.
by.
You say historically though, there are people alive today who were alive before that happened. We created this mess in recent memory, recent history.
Before
and
the
we've
lease
got a
expired, it was
responsibility to
handed
fix
over
it.
to.
Yeah.
But this is a country of people who live there, breathe there, grow there, pray there. It's not a lease on a shop property, It's a country, it's a culture, it's a livelihood, it's a way of life. And every day, would you agree? Every day the Palestinian is being brutalized.
Right.
Every day a
Right.
new wall comes up.
But the fact is that in the name of international law, where do we go? We are usurping people's rights left, right, and center, as and when we want to. And eventually we've got to say might is right prevails in many parts of the world.
I mean, the fight between the Palestinians and the Israelis are the fourth biggest army. They've got
True.
the most precise weapons.
True.
They test it out on Palestinians.
True.
They go and bomb. And Hamas is bad, right? They go around bombing. But how many Israeli civilians have died? 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many Palestinians have died? 1,410. Men, women and children. 500 children have died.
Sure.
So how can that be
Yes.
justified? I mean,
Well, it's sad. I mean, I can only take you back to 1990 when I was in a meeting, and I was the only non-lawyer in there, and I was told that this is about 10 days before 1990 attack on Iraq, and they said that the life of one European soldier is equivalent to 1,000 soldiers in Iraq. So
And that's called slavery.
It turns out to be physically like that because there's no appreciation of or value of a human life elsewhere other than the European countries and the West, which is
So, okay. Shall we continue the story of Dipu Ahad and how you rescued him then? Because Dipu has Dipu,
3 times.
Dipu was caught, and yes, you owe your life to this guy. So how did you manage? I mean, who are you? The UN representative, the Inspector General of America? Who are you, David?
I'm the UN representative for Blake Law.
So you pulled a miracle off. That's how I must say. So tell us, what did you do? Did you have a Sten gun on you, or a grenade, or
I used the mightiest tool of all.
language?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The word. The
Well,
spoken word.
David
No, he didn't manage to get him out.
I've seen David on every protest at Eldon Square before that.
Yeah, but
you guys went to
Eldon
Israel.
Square is slightly easier to live in than Palestine.
Yes.
I think. Well, the
And the British police is slightly kinder.
The thing that you've got to keep in mind
What did you do?
in all this is that he did nothing wrong.
Yes.
So we were observing a peaceful demonstration
That's all you went.
in Palestine, an area over which the Israeli Defense Force have no legal jurisdiction. So for them to travel into Palestine from behind the wall, the wall which, by the way, the important point to note on this separation wall in Berlin is that it is actually built 2 miles east of the Green Line, so it's 2 miles into Palestine. So this isn't a wall on
the territory.
well, exactly. This isn't a wall on the border. You go behind that wall and walk for 2 miles, and you're still in Palestine.
Yes.
So they've built this wall 2 miles into Palestinian territory to protect the illegally built Israeli settlement, which, by the way, is now so big it's got city status. There's 55,000 properties in this settlement. It's enormous.
And David, the word settlement sounds like somebody who goes into the desert or a forest and creates something. They are just usurping Palestinians' homeland.
No, that's exactly
true.
right.
That's
It's not a settlement.
It's not a settlement. It's like invasion.
Exactly. I mean, I think the word settlement is misleading. I mean, this thing is huge. I mean, you've seen it with your own eyes. I think last time I was in Palestine, I wrote an article about it, and there was photographs published. They're online. You can just Google it. Anyway, so keeping all that in mind, that we were doing nothing wrong. So when Dipu was seized and thrown in the back of a armored Israeli Defense Force vehicle and driven off to a location which I guess at the time he had no idea where he was because
His eyes were blindfolded.
Because they used his own scarf to blindfold him. When we finally, and everybody in the group was working really hard to find out where he was, and eventually he was able to get a message through to us to say, I'm here. And he was at a small sort of outpost police station just through the Calandia checkpoint in Jerusalem.
Which is one of the most notorious and difficult checkpoints, isn't it? Calandia. There's lots of YouTube bits
There's a real history to Calandia checkpoint. You could have a whole program on that. But anyway, it's through this particular checkpoint. So when we got to the police station, and finally got into the police station, which in itself is an adventure because they wanted to know who I was and what my name was and what let me see your passport. And I refused to give them any of that. I said, look, I'm here as voluntarily. I'm not here on arrest.
You haven't arrested me.
Yeah, you've asked me to come here, and I've come here as a courtesy. So anyway, they finally let me in, and the guy behind the counter, who I assumed was the sort of police sergeant, if you like, you could sort of tell instantly that he had little man syndrome. He was this tiny little fella.
Was he short like us?
He was short. He was shorter than me, and that's it.
Oh my God!
And I was talking to him. He indicated that he didn't speak particularly good English, so our dialogue was pretty stilted until I got on the phone to the British Embassy in Tel Aviv, and then miraculously within the space of 30 seconds he could speak fluent English.
Oh really?
Yeah. So that's when the fun and games began, really. So we had quite a lot of back and forth. Where the first question I asked is, I've brought and request Dipu's passport to prove that he is who he says he is. I've verified how I know him and who he is, etc., etc. We went through all that rigmarole, and then I asked how long it would be before we'd be let out, and they said up to an hour.
Which in Israeli terms is miracle.
Yeah.
They talk in days and...
Right.
Well, I had no reason to believe it, but they said an hour. And then a few minutes after that, Dipu was moved from where he was into a little sort of holding cell. And I think there's a photograph of Dipu sitting in that room. So I had an opportunity to sort of have a chat with him, and I could see he was in a pretty bad way. He'd really hurt his leg, his ankle. It was swollen up. And obviously it's not a pleasant experience sort of going
You
through what he
managed
went
to
through.
get Dipu released
Yeah.
eventually, and then did you take him to a clinic to have the ankle seen to?
No.
he brought him
Took him to a restaurant to have
We
something
were
to eat.
sitting, had something to eat. He hadn't had anything, and we celebrated. And you'll see all this when the pieces arrive here.
Yeah.
You know, we've done a lot of filming. You'll see
Right.
the whole hotel celebrated.
Oh,
Yeah.
fantastic.
You know, everyone in
Wow.
the restaurant floor, way.
But can I just say though, unlike the Israeli government who made him sign a piece of paper to say that they'd offered him medical
Lies.
treatment, I didn't
Lies.
make him sign a piece of paper. I just didn't offer it.
Well, everything is based on lies,
Yeah.
basically, on the other side. Might is right. But was this the time when you went into a shisha bar that you were celebrating with people? Because I saw a picture of that.
No,
across.
that was another time. That was a different evening.
Right.
At pains to length that I was merely an observer in the shisha bar, not a participant.
Right.
No, that
The
was
photographic evidence says
that was I'm asthmatic. That was a different occasion. No, we just went to Bayit. I mean, it was by the time we got back to where we were staying, it was sort of after midnight. So, and if you think we'd been involved in all this from about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so I had nothing to eat. There's a real farcical story actually. When we're in the police station,
Right.
an Israeli chap came in. He had some banana bread, and figuring that Dipu hadn't had anything to eat, I asked my friend, the Israeli police officer behind the counter, could I give my friend some banana bread? And he snapped back at me, "No, you can't give him some banana bread." And I said, "Well, look, he'll be hungry, and when he's in low blood sugar, anybody who knows Dipu will know when he's hungry and hasn't had something to eat, he's a bit grumpy."
Right.
So I was quite keen to get him something to eat because I didn't want him going into an interrogation on an empty stomach.
And be grumpy.
See how I think of him, you see?
Yeah. Of course, you're very
I think
The truth is, I wanted a bit of the banana bread as well.
Bread as
But
well.
the guy wouldn't let me give him any banana bread, so we had this ridiculous argument about whether or not I could give him some banana bread and how Israel are signatories to the Geneva Convention and that dictates how prisoners should be treated, etc., etc. Anyway, eventually it got so crazy that he threatened to arrest me. And I said,
for offering banana bread.
well, exactly. I said, "Are you really
Really?
seriously telling me that there's a law in Israel that says you can't offer a prisoner banana bread? And that's an offence punishable by arrest." And he stormed out the room and came back in.
So really, he was like a child stomping his feet,
Well, he was-
and you're like a teacher or a parent who said, "Come on, behave
No, I
yourself."
mean, I was doing a bit of feet stomping as well. I have to admit.
Did you
I
not?
wasn't. I was being a little bit
Tough.
Yeah, not tough,
Well,
just annoying. I think.
You purposely annoyed him.
Yeah.
Were you not? Were
Teasing
you
him.
not doing this on him?
No, I was. Yeah. Well, he kept turning
Tell
the.
us.
So he kept.
He's quite clever.
He kept. He wanted to just get on with his work, and I knew that actually they're going to let him go. So the
So
more
why all this
annoying,
drama?
yeah,
Yeah,
why all
yeah.
this fuss?
Yeah.
The more, so I figured that the more I annoyed him and asked him
The quicker
questions
he'd
and hassled him, the quicker I let him go. So every time he started to work on his computer,
What
I
would
would
you do?
sing or tap or
What were you singing like?
tap my I can't remember.
Blade and Races?
Banana Rama. I would tap my feet, and he would turn the television up. But turn the television up meant he couldn't concentrate on his work, so that just sent him a little bit crazy
Loopy.
as well. But you know, maybe I don't know.
Maybe his blood sugar
maybe-
also went down like
well,
Dipu's.
well, maybe they would have let him out 2 hours earlier had I not annoyed him. We don't know, do we?
and Mr. Shumel, you were there as well.
yeah, I was at the protest.
So his is
Right.
another
Protest.
Right. Another story.
rip-roaring, pant-tearing story. Go on, tell us.
Yeah, but we thought it's probably best that I didn't go to the police office. But in terms of the observing the protest, obviously we were all there together, and we were just all wanting to see what happened and what happens to the Palestinian on a weekly basis.
Right.
When they observe this non-violent protest. So initially we kind of we were going down the hill, and then out of nowhere they start firing tear gas. So there's one on my right, one in front, and one sort of to my left.
And these are canisters that keep
these
on
are-
giving fumes.
Yeah, they keep going. These are big things as well. They're not small. They're quite large. So everyone starts running, and the first thing we got told was, you don't run, you walk backwards.
Backward.
Yeah, you walk backwards. So automatically the training kicks in. So I'm shouting at everyone, walk backwards. And by the time I've done that, they've already run up the hill. So I'm just standing there,
Walking
backwards in the middle of this this tear gas. But in a way, it's actually that actually saved me from arrest, because when I did eventually get back up the hill, I was conked out, I was spitting, coughing, yeah.
Terrible.
And I was just trying to get all this stuff out of my system, tears coming out. It was horrible. And luckily, one of our colleagues gave me a bottle of water and I rinsed out my face. But by that time, everyone had started going back down the hill again. So I was at the back, so kind of going down the hill, and then suddenly the gates just opened, and everyone's like, "Oh, what do we do now?" And all you could see is just people running towards you, and there's just panic setting.
Through the gate.
The gate is for the Israelis to come through the wall.
Right.
So the people on this side of the wall, they just panic because tear gas is bad enough, but real soldiers.
Right. Real soldiers come in, and they always, I guess, when they come in, they're going to do something dirty. Or
well, you see this
somebody.
we see this huge armored vehicle, and you just don't know what's going to happen, and the fear just kicks in, and you think, well, everyone, it's that pack mentality where one person's running, so everyone just starts running.
And the vehicle comes through the gate.
Yeah.
And you're on the side where the protest takes place, which is a handful of people, not a lot. And they still have to use tear gas to scare them away.
Yeah, and it's not, we keep calling it tear gas, it's much worse. It gets your skin, your throat, we're still coughing and
But
spluttering.
you're caught into it because you're close to the protesting.
Yeah, well, they're still firing. Even if you're at the back, they fire quite high and quite.
You're almost surrounded from all sides. It's not just to drive you away, it's to get you. Isn't that, David?
That's right, yeah.
Normally, I've seen this in India with my inefficient police from Patna. They'll fire tear gas, you'll actually start crying. No more than that.
Yes.
But they'll drive you away. Like the tear gas is, you are facing the police and they're firing tear gas, so you go away. This is like surrounding from all sides to make you cough, splutter and die kind of.
Yeah. I think they call it tear gas, is certainly from my point of view, I call it tear gas because when I get tear gas, I cry. Because it's so painful and uncomfortable, it makes you feel so sick and so
tear
sore.
gas is like onion peeling. It just gets the eyes.
This is a
This
particularly
burns your skin.
virulent strain of tear gas, which, by the way, out of interest, is supplied to the Israeli Defense Force by the American government. You might be interested to know. They don't make or create it themselves. The Americans supply them with it.
Thank you,
This
Mr.
is
How long did it take you
tear
to
gas.
recover from the after effects of the tear gas?
It takes a while.
I think I'm still clearing my throat, my voice is not back to normal.
Mm.
This is not my
You
graphic.
mentioned a few days.
Have you not noticed that Doc's been really quiet? So he's not speaking as much as he usually
And the smell
does.
as well. The smell stays with
I'm
you.
not smelling. And worse than that, all the clothes we wore, they would check at the airport at the exit to see if you had been tear gassed.
Yeah.
So we washed all our clothes and shoes and boots
Okay.
and everything.
To get it off. Yeah.
Otherwise, they'd check at the airport.
The other thing to note is they weren't just firing tear gas by that point. When they came out in the truck, they're firing rubber bullets. And when you're running away from them, you don't know if they're rubber bullets or they're real bullets.
So you're lucky you didn't get hit by a
you have no
rubber
idea.
otherwise you
But
could-
what are
could
rubber
injure
bullets?
you.
Are they not bullets with rubber coating?
Yeah.
But
So
it's
they
still
can
gonna
blind
hurt.
you.
It's still going to hurt if it hits you.
Oh, yes. It would,
Yeah,
it would.
I got the bruise on my back to prove it. It
Can you see
hurts.
it, please?
Oh, you got hit by one.
I like to tell people it's on my upper thigh, but it's actually in a place that I wouldn't really like to show you. So it's,
Right.
so it's not, it's pretty awful. It's a pretty awful.
And
Um,
I actually think,
But
to
when
go
you're
along
ready.
with that, the four of us, we were wearing T-shirts with peace written on.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think rather than getting the idea of peace, I think they just saw it as
A threat.
a threat.
So in a way, it's a funny thing. Why Israel is scared of peace? There's a book like that. Why Israel is scared of peace? It just can't cope with peaceful coexistence.
Yes.
It has forgotten
True.
what happiness is, what joy is,
Yeah.
what non-oppression
I
is.
think you've got to make a distinction though between when you say Israel, the majority of the people of Israel want peace and they want to live in peace and it's the Israeli government that is the problem. I mean,
Why don't they vote them in though?
Well, because I think there's a collective fear. So I think Israeli citizens, I mean, every Israeli person that I've ever spoken to has expressed to me one desire. They just want peace. They just want to live in harmony and peace and free from incursion. That's all they want. But I think there's this collective fear that if they vote in what they
Peaceful
perceive as a
government.
soft, peaceful, left-wing government, then their security and
security is
safety will be
threatened.
compromised. So they vote in these crazy right wing. I mean, if you analyse the politics of Israel, I mean, Benjamin Netanyahu, by comparison to some of his cabinet, he's a moderate. You know, I mean, it's politics over there. You think it's bad here? Politics over there is just awful. I mean, it's a coalition of the unwilling. That's the problem.
You're probably right, because people like Netanyahu are destined and designed to say no when it comes to peace. But the guys before him, people like Ariel Sharon and Moshe Dayan, they were absolute killers.
Well, look, Benjamin Netanyahu, the reality is Benjamin Netanyahu is not a serious partner for peace. If he was, he would have negotiated peace with Mahmoud Abbas, who is a moderate. I mean, just look at the situation that President Abbas has been in. So Benjamin Netanyahu said to President Abbas, we can't negotiate with you, President Abbas, because you don't speak for the whole of Palestine. So President Abbas, Mahmoud Abbas, spent the best part of 2 years negotiating a unity government with Hamas.
Between Hamas and...
Since you're well versed in Israeli-Palestinian affairs, in your opinion, if one day, or maybe in a year, 2 years, or 10 years, Hamas and Fatah got together and said to Israel or Netanyahu, here we are, and we don't want to fight, we want peace. In your opinion, do you think peace would ever come to that place?
Well, that was the point I was just going to make, because Benjamin Netanyahu spent the best part of 2 years negotiating to form a unity government with Hamas, and part of the condition of that unity government was Hamas would lay down their part of the issue that Israel have had with Hamas is that Hamas essentially were committed to the destruction of Israel, which is wrong and it's awful. And Fatah, led by President Abbas, essentially said, if we're going to form a unity government, you need to drop that. You need to recognise that Israel has a right to exist. Otherwise, we're never going to have peace.
Yes.
So that was an agreement between Hamas and Fatah. So they formed a unity government. Mahmoud Abbas went back to Benjamin Netanyahu and said, Benjamin Netanyahu, as requested, we formed a unity government. Benjamin Netanyahu then says, I'm sorry, I can't negotiate with terrorists. So that tells you something about the
whatever you
politics
do,
over
the
there.
goalposts change. And
Exactly.
is that not somebody in jail who is like a godfather to both? I mean, in a positive sense.
Yeah.
They all respect him. I've forgotten his name.
Marwan Bugatti, he's called.
Yes, Bugatti.
Yeah. So
And he is like if they let him out, then he'll negotiate the peace, and then Israel won't know what to do.
Well, it's a negative thinking, but I think peace is not going to be obtained at any price, because now they've made up their minds not to accept something called peace. They can have it the other way.
It's not an easy road, but it can happen. And we need to keep the faith.
That's what I've been hearing for the last 50-something years since I've been following it.
Okay, I'll invite Mr. Sajawal Khan, who's very kindly provided me a cup of tea and biscuit, and he's been sitting super patiently.
Okay.
So you take the mic, sir, and you ask these people questions. I was there. Let me take my chair.
Alderman Khan, please. Not Mr. Alderman.
Good evening, Alderman Khan.
Alderman Khan.
Thank you so much.
You ask them what you like in English.
First of all, actually, I would like to congratulate all of you who have visited in Palestine, because you are very brave people who are there, and without fearing of your life, you were there and actually observe what has been going on there. And I think you have shown that you are very good human being. We all human being, and we have to work together to make the peace wherever we live. But the question I would like to ask you about do you think there are some international observers there who doing their job properly? What about the International Court of Justice? What about the international law? And what is the double standard of the actually international community towards on various issues somewhere else in the world and the issue in Palestine? So,
I mean, that's a pretty broad question, that. But the first thing to say is that the United Nations, they do have a presence in Palestine. I mean, the United Nations Relief Workers Agency, UNRWA, run all of the refugee camps. I think there's 26 refugee camps in Palestine and Palestine's West Bank and Gaza, and they run them because the the Palestinian Authority won't accept responsibility for the refugee camps and the refugees living in them,
Yes.
because their position is that Israel created that problem and they need to be responsible for fixing it. So the United Nations do have a presence there, but I think my opinion on the United Nations is that the United Nothing. I think they're a toothless organisation actually who overly, I mean, we could get into this all night, but you know, essentially America and Britain, their preemptive strike of Iraq, whatever credibility the United Nations had flew out the window on that day. And I think the United Nations simply in the Middle East, I just don't think they get any respect. I don't think they're respected at all. And there's a great shame to that, because the idea of the United Nations, you know, came together after the scourge of World War II, to ensure to save future generations from the scourge of war. Will come together, nations will come together, and they'll talk rather than fight. That is a bold idea that my grandparents and perhaps your parents fought for, you know, and we've just torn it up and thrown it out the window. It means nothing anymore, and I think that's made the world a very dangerous place. But I think we have to be clear: the fault lies with the Americans and with us.
Yeah.
You know, and I think they have. I mean, when you go there, it's very interesting when you talk about the UN. It's I mean, their work in a sense is respected in that they do good things in the refugee camps. But I think as an organisation, the politics of it, they're not respected. Because, you know, essentially it's an organisation that's run by the Western superpowers, and we've seen what the Western superpowers' collective opinion is on Palestine, and how I said it at the beginning of the piece here, that I think, sadly, that they see the life of a Palestinian as being worth less than yours and mine. That's the sad truth. And the evidence sort of points to that. I think this point of the International Court of Justice is a good one, and again, it's a probably warrants a lengthier debate, but essentially what we're waiting on is Mahmoud Abbas to submit to the International Court of Justice, which would involve them submitting not only the government of Israel, a case against the government of Israel, but also Hamas. And I think Hamas, as a political organisation, have said that they're quite happy to submit to that. But there's politics involved in that. I mean, you know, I suspect there's some politics that that lies beneath the surface that we don't understand. That America, when when Palestine were a couple of years ago going for recognition through the United Nations, I suspect what happened is America said something to them like this: we won't vote for it, but we won't use our power to oppose it, so it will go through. But the understanding is you ease off on certain things, and I think this is probably one of them. So I think like the Palestinians are between a rock and a hard place. You know, it's a game of chess. They've got a couple of pawns on the board and no queen. You know, they're in a very difficult position, and they are forced to rely, I guess, on the goodwill of other nations who are unduly influenced by Israel. It's very difficult, but
I heard last week that Al-Fatah in the International Court of Justice, they backed down in their cooperation agreement with Hamas.
Right.
So Hamas are left alone, and Fatah have said that we are willing to go ahead, but it's not going to be done on that basis.
I think what people don't really understand, you know, when people look at Palestinian politics and they look at Fatah and they look at Hamas, they're sort of homogenized into one, you know, and they're two politically, if you look at them purely as political entities,
True.
they're poles apart. I mean, Fatah, by the way, is relevant to most of us in this room, is the sister party of the Labour Party. So they have political aims and political ideologies. They're committed to peace. They're committed to non-violent resistance to the occupation. Unfortunately, Hamas are not. I mean, again, you know, we could debate and discuss this all night. I have a particular view on Hamas that I don't think they're particularly smart politically, and I don't think they're particularly smart militarily. I mean, they haven't really achieved anything for the people of Gaza. I mean, the people of Gaza live in absolute ruin. Now, blame for that, of course, lies with the government of Israel, who've launched this horrendous assault on them, and who've managed
of how Israeli politics and Palestinian politics has developed.
Yeah.
In your opinion, has there ever been a move from Israel to say that if Hamas backed down and said, we are on the table and we are going to talk peace, would Israel say yes?
That's what's just happened. I mean, part of that's what I was saying earlier, this unity agreement between Hamas and between Fatah,
Right.
one of the criterion attached the criteria attached to that unity agreement that Hamas would essentially recognise the government of Israel and their right to exist. So it would drop its claim to eliminate Israel from the map. I mean, you know, the can I just say, I think the Israelis, the government of Israel, have every right to be fearful of Hamas, because Hamas, as an organisation, the organisation that they were pretty awful people, actually. I mean, you know, they were democratically elected into Gaza, and I think that tells you more about the situation on the ground in Gaza, and just how desperate Gazans were that they elected them in the first place, that they said, we've tried everything, now we've tried peaceful means and it hasn't worked. You still maintain this blockade which is strangling us and killing us. Gaza is a dead land, you know.
With great apologies to the Muslim Brotherhood and the Muslim fraternity worldwide, I'd like to make a comment here. The question of Israel not existing as a separate state is dead 65 years ago. It's there already. It's acknowledged by the United Nations and so many countries of the world, with the exception of only a few. So what's this statement from various people saying that, you know, Israel does not have a right to exist? It exists. It's there already.
It's not a position that I respect, because if you're an internationalist, then you believe in the role of international, the law of it, you believe in international law, and international law states very clearly the government, Israel exists. It's there. We've just been to it. We know it exists.
Yeah,
you know,
I have a question mark there. There is
you know, there's no question.
There's hardly any international law around, and the International Court of Justice. The big
You can't
question
claim
mark.
Israel doesn't exist.
No, I didn't say that.
No,
I'm saying that it does exist, and accept it as a state, and then see how it goes.
One of the biggest things I had with going to Palestine was kind of understanding where Palestine moves on to, because you talk about the one-state solution, you talk about the two-state solution, and when you actually go there, you realise how kind of intermingled the two states are, and how attached to each other they are. But then you look at how would a one-state solution work, and how would a two-state solution work, and it's really difficult to kind of envisage either way.
But again, from what you guys have told me, there's a continuing animosity between the two factions, even though it looks like the two-state or one-state solution would work and is working. When you go to the souk in the picture that I saw in Jerusalem, you know, everybody's in there.
But that's,
you know, the
that's
Arabs
not really a two-state. That's kind of a mishmash. It's just kind of maintaining some sort of equilibrium that isn't really there, because the Palestinians don't have freedom of movement. They don't have access to water. Well, the Israelis don't have the same. They can't go into Palestinian areas.
But that's because they've created this fear factor and the syndrome.
True, but it's illegal for Israeli to go into a Palestinian area, and that's set up by the government. So this is the problem with the two-state solution. The areas are so intermingled and so intertwined that where do you draw a border? You can't draw a border now. It seems like that, being there and visiting those places.
The question comes to mind, the question of the untouchables.
Exactly the same as back home in India and Pakistan. That
True.
But the lines in Israel are funny. There are little pockets of Israeli settlers inside a Palestinian area, and vice versa.
Right.
It's very complicated. It's not a simple Wagah border.
Right.
There's hundreds of Wagah border.
You know though, I think the point that I'll make on all of this is you can get very bogged down in the politics of it all, but it's very simple. The thing with this conflict is, in my opinion anyway, it's not a conflict of religion. It's a simple land grab.
Yes, land grab.
And I think you know, and I think sometimes you get caught up in the history of it. You get caught up in the sort of politics of it and the religion of it.
Yeah.
I think the simple truth is that this is a land grab, and that Israel, the state of Israel, are illegally occupying Palestine. Now, under international law, that's illegal, and therefore it's beholden on countries who respect the rule of international law to do something about it, and we're not. And I think that's what it's got to come back to.
Yeah, sure.
Can I say a few words in there? I think we all speaking about the actually international law and peace in every way. But what I have seen, actually, the country who's providing the justice, there's a peace there. United Nations is a body who is responsible for all the worlds, because the United Nations should be have one member, one vote for each country, rather than have a powerful country a veto powers. The way of things are going on at the moment, always whenever the United Nations, the resolution are coming, so they are actually the vetoes by somebody, and there are some resolutions in there, no implementation at all. So I think it's important by the United Nations, because they have to provide the justice by the international court and by them itself. If they're not providing the justice, there's no peace at all. So I think it's important, all the countries, all the leaders, all the politicians, they are speaking every day. We are working hard for the peace. We are working hard for the international law. So actually, if Israel is occupied there illegally, so what the international communities do? Are the international community have a double standard about the Kashmir and also Palestine? Are they don't want to actually resolve this matter? Until these matters are not resolved by the international community, there's no peace at all, in my point of view. So what do you think actually? Is the international law actually being implemented? Or why is not implemented, and why is actually have a double standard to go along with
I
it?
think the problem is they don't have a double standard. They have so many standards that you can't count them. That's the issue. The double standard doesn't exist. You know, I mean, the standard exists depending where you are in the world. I mean, you know, what other country on earth would tolerate what the Palestinians are going through? I mean, I think it's testament to the character of the people. Actually, when we talk about the Palestinian people for a second, I think it's testament to the character of the Palestinian people. We've just been to the West Bank. I mean, there are parts of the West Bank that are I mean, it's such a beautiful country, but there are parts of the West Bank where the poverty is so awful, so gut-wrenchingly abject and disgraceful, and it's awful that you just wonder, like, what on earth is motivating these people to go on? And I think that's a testament to their character, that they are committed to sort of peaceful, non-violent approach to solving this problem. And I think, unfortunately, you know, the United Nations, in my opinion, is an expensive bureaucracy. United nothing, in my view. Yes. I mean, I just don't.
If
I
you
just
invert
don't.
it the other way, NU is nothing united.
Yeah.
And United Nations has proved that.
Yeah.
UNRWA, which I was quite conversant with even something like 4 decades ago, just paints a picture of rosiness, and it's a clear-up operation after the damage is done. Yeah, they just do the cleaning up. That's how it actually works. And talking about the International Court of Justice, cite me one example where they've been helpful in resolving a problem. Slobodan Milosevic died. Radovan Karadzic, if he's ever tried, I'll take my hats off to the International Court of Justice.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with you. I mean, I think, look, the reality of this situation is that it's not going to be resolved by governments. It's not going to be resolved by the United Nations. It's not going to be resolved by the International Court of Justice. It's going to be resolved by people. I think people power is what's going to fix this, and we've got to put pressure on, like we're doing in Newcastle. I mean, Newcastle, I think, is a shining example for how for other cities to follow. I mean, other cities do some fantastic things, but in Newcastle, we've been able to build a very broad-based coalition around peace for Palestine.
The amazing bit is that
that's how it's got to work.
When you were protesting in Eldon Square on a regular basis, I looked into Facebook and I got hold of a piece in there. They showed 50 places in the world there were huge protests, even in Chicago, New York, and in London there was a massive protest. You could see the picture. The entire street was full of heads, people protesting about what's happened.
Well, you know what, the great thing of this is, you know, Dipu and I are councillors in Newcastle, and once a year we go through this process where we have to pass a budget, and over the last couple of years there have been some pretty unpopular things put through in those budgets. We'll not get into that tonight, but it's not our fault, it's the Tories.
It's obviously
anyway,
not.
There's been some pretty unpopular things done through that budget through no real choice of our own, but we've had to do it. And Dipu and I, like every Labour council in the city, we're the ruling group, we face some pretty tough criticism. And we face some pretty tough criticism from the same people that Dipu and I now stand shoulder to shoulder with, campaigning for peace for Palestine. And I think that's a testament to how it actually should work. that we're able to come together, this
on
broad-based
issues.
coalition on this particular issue and
yes.
work together.
It's so bad that doesn't matter which
further the
party,
cause of
what.
peace.
Yes.
Yeah, it doesn't make any
I
difference
think
at all.
Newcastle is Tyneside is the most friendly place, and we have the peace march coming up on Sunday, is it? This Sunday or Saturday, there's a peace march, 27th.
Okay.
In Newcastle.
Saturday.
So that's Saturday then. So there's that background. But I think in the matter of Palestine, I think Newcastle has really been forward. Would you say that, David? I mean, you know the
No, I would
whole
say it
scene.
all.
I only know Newcastle.
That I would, and I mean, I think there are some really committed people to this in Newcastle. Like
I'm speaking to
you know,
one. You.
yeah,
Yes, absolutely. I
Alex
was
Snowden,
about to say
Tony
that.
Dowling. There's
Yes.
others, you know, who
Yes.
Mick
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
that are really, and lots of others. I shouldn't
Yes,
name names
yes,
because
yes.
I always forget names. But
The whole
you know, these
team's
are people.
brilliant.
Everybody's brilliant. Each of them representing different organisations. You know, we've got Stop the War Coalition, Friends of Al Aqsa, Newcastle Labour Friends of Palestine, the Newcastle Palestinian Solidarity Campaign, others who have come together and worked together to further the message of peace and you know, for Palestine and Palestinians.
Okay.
And we're
It's coming
doing
up
our
for
bit.
break time,
Mhm.
and we'll discuss this matter further.
It's Red Hot Radio. Spice FM 98.8 FM.
You are listening to Alderman Sajawal Khan, my great friend Syed Hassan Ahmed, and little Shumel, because he's the youngest one. I'm calling him little, but he's same age as Dipu, aren't you?
Yeah.
You're class fellows, aren't you?
Yeah, we are. Well, me and Dipu are the same age, and old man David is 1 year older.
I'm just the best one.
Okay. Well, the two oldest people are sitting opposite you, and I'm older than him by 3 months. So I'm the oldest, so have some respect for me. Okay.
Thank you.
Anyway,
But I think I'm younger than him.
yeah, well, you look the youngest. You got the flashy white car, sports car. I've got a battered old Jaguar. It's all a matter of how big your car is, isn't it? Size matters. Engine size matters. Coming back to the seriousness of Palestine, Shumel, how do you feel in your heart of hearts? Dil, in your ruh, atma.
It's hard to describe because it's a complete mixture of emotions. Really glad to be home.
Yes.
Massively glad to be home. With all the rights that British citizenship gives you.
Yes.
You know, we can complain in this country, but
Oh,
we
yeah.
have so many
Go
rights
elsewhere,
and
you find out how
freedoms.
good this is. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Devastated to be leaving my friends back in Palestine.
Yes.
Kind
Because
of.
you got to know them, the drivers,
Oh.
Alam. These are nice
Hamdi.
people. They're Hamdi, they're gentle, soft-hearted people, you know.
Yeah, they're amazing people. They're so friendly.
And they don't
so
crib, they don't complain.
open.
They say, yahi hai, this is it.
Yeah, and
Almost like
they just get on with it. They
Yes.
just kind of, they know this is going on, but they get on with their life.
You know what really hurt me? That house we went to where the boy was going to get married next Wednesday. He was killed on Tuesday just coming out of the mosque. That's all his crime was. He was coming out of a mosque. And we went into that house in a week's time. And next day might have been his wedding. I would imagine that the mother was crying and all. You know, Khan Sahib, they've lost that softness. They become so...
She's been strong. She's been really strong.
Indeed, but it's such a common place to have people killed and died. I mean, Newcastle, somebody dies, we'll all be up in arms, we'll be crying for days, beating our chest and so on. But they got so used to death. It's just normal. It's so sad. And they are offering us dates and cups of coffee. I felt very sad, you know.
I think that incident, I think the two incidents that hit me really
Go on.
hard were that incident, and I think I got that connection with the father when we were leaving, talking to him, and you could see how upset he was.
Yes, yes.
And the other incident was at the UN school, where they'd had to build a concrete wall on one side and block the windows because 5 children had been killed by snipers.
For nothing.
What was their crime?
Yeah.
Getting an education.
Yeah.
What had they done wrong? And the kids had to duck underneath the window when they changed classes. You know, what had they done wrong to deserve to be
All they're doing is
to be
studying.
shot?
Yeah.
Those were probably the two biggest things that kind of stuck with me. But it's, you have so many emotions because you're kind of so happy to see these people, but then you hear stories like that and you're so sad and kind of, what can I do? How can I help? And it's a very difficult situation.
No, I mean, to be here and go on a march is nothing. It's absolutely nothing. It's nice temperature.
Forget everything you read and you see, and
go and see it
until you've seen it and you've been there, you've lived it,
you smell it,
you've been with these people, you smelt it,
and tear gas gets in your throat. You know how bad it is.
And once you've been there, you're invested in these people. You've got that passion, and you think, "Hang on, these are my friends. There's no way I'm leaving them behind." And you have that, and you want to do something.
Compassion.
And that's one of the hardest things when you get back. What can I do? I want to do something. What can I do?
What can we do?
Yeah.
What can we do?
Well, talking to everyone, they say
telling them the story.
Yeah, keep on doing what you're doing. Carry on with the BDS. Tell our story. Get the word out. Continue the pressure. Lobby your MP. Lobby Parliament. Kind of get our voices heard.
Like we're doing now.
Yeah, you're advocates for the Palestinian people. Yes. Get yourself out there and be heard. Like I'm not one for talking on the mic. We have noticed.
Even you are talking.
You speak well.
I've known you. I've known you from before you were born, man.
Yeah, you know me.
You're such a quiet man. No, but then issue arises and you say, I can't keep quiet.
You have to stand up. You have to.
Your conscience
it's a
won't
responsibility that you have to get your voice heard for the Palestinian people. I prefer to work in the shadows, but you can't do that. You have to stand up and be counted and be heard. My mum wasn't happy when I got back. She wasn't happy tonight, but I told her...
Your mum wasn't happy that you got back.
Probably that as well. She's more unhappy with Dipu, don't worry.
You should stay there and fought, they thought, you know.
Well, she's not happy with me.
No, I mean...
that's what it is.
I know you all keep asking me, how did I escape? First of all, they say, go against the wind. But I saw the damn thing coming at me. I sidestepped it and went downhill. If I got caught downhill, I'd be finished, because it's very choky. Wait till the film comes. You're like vomiting and you're wishing you died. It was so bad. And then, Syed, you're running away from it.
Right.
And there's a soldier coming from the other side to get you. What is this?
So
I'm running away from you. What more do you want? And Khan Sahib, then what I did was, there was a Irish girl running in front of me and the soldier coming. Yeah. And I said, please God, get her arrested, leave me alone. By God. And they got her and let me go. And I had a camera in my hand. That's a stupid idea, Fa. What are you catching a woman when there's a young bloke like me?
A camera and a tripod.
And a tripod, yes.
And a pink t-shirt.
And a pink t-shirt. You told me to throw the t-shirt the way I did. I had the black shirt saying Shalom, Salam and all that. Yeah. Then I wore the pink shirt and put it upside down and made holes.
Okay.
So that I don't get it.
You covered your nose.
Yes. It does. I mean, it's so sad. I mean...
Yeah.
Khansa.
Yeah, actually the point I would like to make, I always think about they have bombarded the civilians area and the many children's been killed.
500.
Yeah.
500 children.
500. Even the United Nations school was bombarded. So what was the actually reaction from the United Nations? Nothing.
Zero.
Why not? Zero. So if it's zero, so what actually needs of the United Nations? Do we need United Nations or not?
They're just a paper to cover the cracks.
Yes. Yeah.
The cracks are in the building. The United Nations has a nice, flossy, sweet-looking paper.
So I think in my point of view, if they're not implementing the actually Geneva Convention, if they're not implementing the international law, if they're not actually interested in to the peace in these areas, so what these politicians are doing? So they just have a slogan for the elections. I'm doing this. They always talk about the actually humanity. They always talk about the international law. They always talk about the Geneva Convention, and they are champion of the human rights, and they are the champion of everything. They said we are doing our best to do this and that. So what is the actually humanity? Where is the humanity?
Khan Sahib, it's all talk. There's no walk.
As far as I understand, we all human beings.
Yes.
We, white, black, red, whatever color, culture, race and religion we come from, we are one and we have to be one. Many Israelis, they are, while I was talking to them, they strongly condemned.
I have a DVD.
So they are a good human being.
I have a DVD of Israeli pacifists.
Yeah.
They are spat upon by the local Israelis who are against. I'm not saying all Israelis are against it, but there are pacifists mainly from abroad, from America,
There's a rabbi there. There's a lady there. This lady is a grandmother from America, and she says, my grandchild is in Israel. I hope he doesn't become another soldier. She's really dreading the day that her bacha, who's only 2 years old, will at 18 be conscripted in the army. And what do you think the country is doing to itself, where every child is indoctrinated into hating Arabs?
Well, Doc, we met a lot of good Arabs as well. Good Israelis. Should I say. And essentially, we're all human beings. And you get good and bad everywhere.
Yeah.
And there's some Israelis that are real advocates for the Palestinian cause and for human rights. So I think it's really important not to blanket everyone with. We've gone through an ordeal, and it can cause hatred in your heart, but you can't let that hatred consume you. And you have to.
I'm slowly getting rid of it. I became quite upset.
It's difficult. It is.
You know, there's a DVD called Israel versus Israel. There are 4 people there. One rabbi from America, Jewish, of course. One lady from America. So there are 4 of them. But they're treated, one ex-soldier as well, who was turned around completely and said this is wrong. They're shouted at, they're abused by the local population who wants to carry on the hatred. They say every time I kill an Arab, I do some good. That's the attitude of some of them. I'm not saying everyone is like that. So I'm going to get copies made for all of us. Sorry, I've said it on air, but I'll get copies made for all of us.
Gentlemen, if you allow me to make a comment. Sajawal Khan Sahab was asking about the implementation of Geneva Convention. A US Marine who was in Iraq came away, said on the press on YouTube that they are taught at Quantico or wherever they're trained in West Point in the US how to bypass Geneva Convention. They are taught to do that. So if the Americans are taught to do it, you can assume, Geneva Convention has a limited value. Again, UNRWA, United Nations Relief and Work Agency for Palestine refugees, and wherever they go, you add up the name at the end of it. They are told not to interfere with any physical activity. So they could be standing there, observing the soldiers kill someone. They are not allowed to interfere. So this is what the practical implication of all these assaults is. And of course, Israel is a special child of the West, the brat. And of course, you often protect the brat. So that's how it is.
I think,
sadly,
I think everyone knows that Israel has broke dozens of Geneva, well, probably hundreds of Geneva Conventions.
Right.
I think everyone's aware, America, Israel themselves, Britain, our country. But it's a case of no one is physically doing anything about it. I think we're all aware.
It's just talk. It's just mouth. Do this, do that, or we are going to do this, but whoever does what. And I'm pretty sure that Mr. Sajawal Khan has witnessed all this along his career, that, there is nice talk about implementing the right things, but there are very few people who will go ahead and actually do it. Sadly, this is the total scenario.
Shumel, do you remember?
But I think one point I would like to say, as David actually pointed out earlier, the majority of Israeli people, they are against the killing. No doubt about that. So I think there is a need to find a solution for this problem. It's a big problem. It's not a problem. It's actually issue, a big issue. So I think the table talk is most important. They have to sit together, and Hamas need to be encouraged to come together.
Yes.
And I don't understand the Hamas is being supported by some other countries. There is actually somebody behind. Al-Fatah is the biggest organization in the area, and they're
completely now peaceful.
Yes. So they want to have a peace. If Hamas is going to be continued through the missile as well, so they have to look into their capacity, and if they need a peace and save more lives in future, because many children being actually killed there.
For the future, completely mentally scarred.
So I think the Hamas need to be encouraged by the other countries as well,
yes,
rather than pushing them into the war.
Yes.
So come to the table talk and make the peace in the area, in my point of view.
Well, I was saying, the lady in Bethlehem, the Arab lady mayor of Bethlehem.
Vera
Baboon. She gave such a beautiful speech,
Brilliant speech.
She started funnily by saying, I have a dream. And we all laughed. So she's very human and humane and says, we don't have money, we don't have, all we can offer is peace. It was such a touching, that was another great moment for me.
Definitely.
The United Nations chap who keeps record, Khan Sahab, at least these guys keep records. But what use is of keeping records?
Got a good filing system.
If you, yeah, good filing system. Thank you very much. It's like GP's records. If you're not going to do something for the patient, what's the point of beautiful writing? It's a bit like that. They keep records. And one figure that stuck in my throat was every day 26,000 Gazans would go into Egypt to work every day. Now guess how many go? 120. 26,120. What do they eat? How do they sleep? Their houses are damaged for, they say, pardon me, it'll take 18 years to repair or something.
Right.
Concrete is not allowed. The Palestinian is not allowed concrete or iron. So what are this? They extend their house illegally because there's too many children. Then the whole house is broken down. It's really hard on them.
From whatever you're telling me, it reminds me of how the concentration camps worked. Because the prisoners were not allowed any metal with them, and here's the question of having no iron delivered.
Well, I have compared the suffering to the Holocaust. Well, the Holocaust is much more dramatic and much more sustained and for longer. But again, I say that maybe in the conscious memory of the Israelis, there's that stuff. But these are not the people who caused it. The Palestinians are not Germans.
But if it's there in the conscious memory, then they should remove that from that place called Gaza.
At the partition, you lost 62 family members.
Correct.
How much venom do you hold in your heart?
It's
a non-issue.
I look across borders.
Indeed. So within one generation, you've cleared that pain. His family lost 62 members during partition. And by the way, nobody talks about partition. Holocaust is painful, but we, Pakistanis, Indians, Bangladesh, we represent the whole subcontinent, except David. We all are Asians.
I represent the whole world.
Yeah, there you are. You and Kamsa.
Yeah. As you say, the Holocaust is very, very actually frightened. At that
so
time,
it's left a scar.
Yeah. It's left a scar because we all human being, and any human being being killed is disgraceful. So whatever is happened, we strongly condemned. But at the same time, we have to think about to make a peace in the area
today.
And they have to actually come to the table talk and resolve this matter as soon as possible, rather than have a more killing.
I feel whatever you can talk around and around, the only thing I remember from David is it's a land grab. That's all it is. Because if the length of the wall, I've got some figures here. I'll just tell you about the wall length. I've got the facts and figures here between different walls. Let me tell you the length of different walls.
Just while you're looking that up, you're talking about the land grab. And every time peace comes closer, Israel tries to grab more land. So every time you think you're getting close, they'll extend.
I think there's a book called Why Israel Can't Cope with Peace. There's some truth in that. Okay, let me tell you the length of the walls. China's Great Wall of China is 8,800 kilometers long. But China is a massive country, 9,700 etc. million square kilometers. Come to Germany, it's 135 kilometers. The Berlin Wall, 135. UK's Roman Wall, 117. Guess how long the Israeli Wall? 650. So the population of Israel is a tenth that of Germany or England, roughly speaking. Even less. 82 million is Germany, 62 million is England. Israel is just 8 million. Just 8 million people. But the wall lengths of Germany and England are similar. But their wall is 650. It's just so odd.
Huge. I didn't actually...
People don't understand.
That's a small country like that, and the size
it's just
of
walls
the
and walls and more walls.
Yeah, just to clarify the walls, it's not just one wall. It's not like the Hadrian's Wall where it goes
one straight
way.
line. That's another good point.
It's sectioned all over the place.
It's just to stockade. No, I was going to say Stockdale. It's just to stockade Israeli stockading. I keep saying, looking at him, stockading the people into barriers and blocking them, and then they have passes, and then they are checked. It's just amazing.
Doctor, do you go through the checkpoint with us?
Yes.
You did? Yes.
But I sat at the back of the bus and I look pretty decent.
No, but when we walked through...
No, I never walked through. I wouldn't be allowed
It
through.
was like cattle. It was like sheep. When you take sheep,
I
and
tell you
put
where,
them-
in Hebron, in those metal stiles,
Yeah.
it's just as if there's some, we are some kind of. All right, tell me the other thing. Hebron is where the Abraham's tomb is.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a
Abraham
pretty
Tomb.
important place for all the three Abrahamic religions,
Yeah.
which is about 40% of the world's population.
Yeah. Well, the masjid where it is, it's 40% is Muslim and
Okay.
60%.
And
Talking
how-
about Jerusalem.
And how many people were there praying? You were there, and Dipu was there. Where's the rest of the world?
Very
This is the
different.
sadness of it. I'm not a Muslim, but why shouldn't you be there? Why shouldn't Christians be there? Why shouldn't Jewish people be there? No one. Al-Aqsa, until recently, Hindus and other non-Muslims were allowed to go through the Moroccan gate, as our guide told us, the lady called Abir.
Yeah.
We could go and observe, because I like going to Muslim places if I'm allowed. But then now they've stopped that as well.
It's all about control. What I found, a lot of what Israel do is about intimidation, about
Bullying.
control.
Mm.
Yeah. Kind of everything's set up to put you off doing what you want to do. in your
Coming,
normal
seeing,
life.
reporting, being truthful.
Yeah.
Did you get to see the Wailing Wall, King David's church, and Al-Aqsa? Because they're all
We
together.
went-
They went
we
into
went to
Al-Aqsa.
Al-Aqsa. We went into Al-Aqsa twice. We saw Al-Aqsa Masjid, the Dome of the Rock.
Right.
We went Marwani Mosque, which is downstairs.
Okay.
And we walked around the whole complex.
So you must have seen the Wailing Wall because you can't avoid it. It's
40%.
there.
Okay, but he also went to Bethlehem, saw the spot where Jesus was born.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Okay.
quite a moving thing. Thank God that
Really?
we're allowed to go there
Yeah.
and see these things. I
Right,
mean,
right.
these are
Church of the-
Yeah, these
these
are
are
monuments.
world monuments.
Yeah, they
you
are
know.
landmarks.
Yes, of
basically.
the world.
Important places. Yes, true.
So I feel quite saddened that a religious place has been turned into a military base. You know, it's a spiritual thing.
It's a spiritual thing, yes.
Doesn't matter if I'm not a Muslim or a Christian or a Jew. It's a nice place to be
It's
and
a
to.
military state and a military place, you know. It's,
And the young children are being brought up in that very tight. You know, did you speak to Ellie, the girl, Irish girl who's Jewish, who grew up in a totally Jewish atmosphere until she came to Sheffield to study, and her classmates were Pakistani Indian girls, and suddenly realized there's a big world out there, and she's turned into an active. She must be 23, 24 maximum.
So in Bilin.
In Bilin,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes. So there are a lot of, and my whole DVD is about activists.
Right.
Is Jewish activists
Okay.
who are against the Israeli behavior.
Oh, right.
And they really beat their chest and cry about it, saying, this is not right.
Did you get to East Jerusalem where they are slowly demolishing the old structures to make way for new settlements? It's an important spot, and that's where the 4 or 5-star hotel was, where which used to be a 4 or 5-star hotel at the time of the Brits, and then it was taken up by Irgun, the headquarters of the society that broke up, created Israel, Irgun,
Oh, good.
a
Okay.
terrorist organization.
Do you know how to make out which is the Palestinian side of the road from the motorway, which is the Israeli side?
No.
Look at the rooftops. What will you see on the Palestinian side? Black water tanks. Because water is controlled.
Right.
And the Israeli side, there's no such thing. It's easy, isn't it?
It's utilities, isn't it? It's utilities. that
Utilities,
control-
yes.
Yeah.
They don't exist for.
And you know, in a funny way, in Ramallah, the normal people who live there, they're given a very easy life. So they're like bought in, isn't it? They give them easy loans. They've got
Okay.
companies running.
All right.
Go khareed liya, they've bought them off.
So Hebron is relatively.
No, Hebron is a terrible place where there were 30,000
Isn't Hebron, Ramallah the same?
part of it, but Hebron is a specific place.
Okay.
But the rest of Ramallah, you think you're in Lucknow or Delhi or Patna, and
Oh, right.
shops running, everyone happy, not a care in the world.
The life is progressing.
Life goes on, but the occupation still remains.
Right.
And they're getting used to the idea of occupation. You know, if you occupy a country, there's resistance and anger. If you sit there for long enough, they get, theek hai, koi baat nahi.
We'll just get on with it.
Get
and
on with
we'll,
it.
We'll carry on with
Yeah,
our life.
yeah.
But I think it's always in the back of their mind. It's always kind of.
But
something
it's
they
in the
think
face all the time. I mean, I saw the DVD, and this Muslim, obviously Arab woman, is standing, and the male soldier is touching the back of her body, right down her spine and her bottom and everything, just touching it to check for weapons. And in the front, he's got a metal detector. And neither of them have lost this sensitivity that she's a woman and shouldn't be touched. Forget the fact that she's Muslim. Just any woman. Why would, normally women get checked by women. all that niceness is forgotten.
The population of Gaza is 1.8 million. What's the estimation for Ramallah and Hebron, which is West Bank?
I think it's 1.9 in Ramallah, but it's a much bigger area.
So it's about 4 million altogether, both the Palestinian occupied zones.
If the figures are right, yeah.
Shall I ask Daddy Google?
And what do you think would happen if all the 4 million people were arranged to go somewhere and leave it all to Israel?
They won't.
Would they be very peaceful and happy?
That's their land. It's their people. It's their land. They won't go. And
yeah, well, I mean, hypothetical question, because they are prisoners in their own land.
I don't think it'd ever happen. I don't think they would leave. And the other thing is the protectors of the Al-Aqsa complex as well. So for those reasons, I don't think the Palestinians would ever.
I met a guy in the US. He said he's Palestinian. So I asked him what he's doing. He brings in a lot of artifacts from Palestine and Israel, wherever, and he sells them. And I somehow got to ask him about his religion. He said, I'm a Christian. So it's a mixed society. There are a lot of Christians there as well on both sides. And it's not segregated on the basis of religion here. In Israel and Palestine, it's all militarily controlled, basically.
And probably atheists as well. If you wander around the old city, beautiful places, lovely. If there wasn't occupation there, it'd be a fantastic tourist destination.
Yes.
And you wouldn't think, you'd think you're in Turkey, like Istanbul or something like that, walking around the kind of mosques and the churches.
Which
and
coexist comfortably. Do you not remember, were you on the rooftop with me or not, when Abir was demonstrating? No, you went to the Al-Aqsa.
Yeah.
She was saying, look, that is the Muslim area. I'm copying her accent. Muslim area, yes. Look at that Armenian church. There's a Catholic church right inside the heart of Muslim area, and vice versa. In the Catholic area, there was mosque,
well,
and a whole minaret and everything.
Yes,
well, the Western Wall is the wall connected to Al-Aqsa. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre is right next to the Umar al-Khattab's mosque. You know, so it's all connected.
But that's how it is. I mean, that's what I'm used to. In India, you'll have a mosque, and straight across the road is a temple. No big deal. And you learn to live to respect each other instead of competing or.
True.
Who'll get you to heaven faster? 0 to 60.
I don't know. I think that there is something there that I am unable to understand, even though I followed it something like 50 or 60 years from the time.
David will explain to you one simple answer: land grab.
Yeah, it is a land grab, but
it's nothing to do with religion,
could there be
race,
a solution? Could there be a solution?
It doesn't need to be overcomplicated. That's what it is.
Yeah.
You know, in earlier this year, the mayor of Hebron visited us in Newcastle, and I took him on a quick tour of my.
Oh yes, I missed out on him. Dipu mentioned him. Yeah.
He came to Blakelaw, the People's Republic of Blakelaw.
Yeah.
And he helped me deliver some leaflets.
Right.
And I was talking to him, and we were walking around, and he said, "This is what I want for Hebron. This is what I want for my city one day.
Freedom to walk around.
Yeah. You know, we take it for granted. Like just today, Dipu and I have been planning out our like these autumn spring cleans that we're going to do in the back lanes in Elsick and the back lanes in Blakelaw. We've been working on that today, and put it all into context. You know, just a few days ago, what we were seeing and experiencing, and then you come back. And, we deal with the really important issues that we're dealing with in our own communities, in our own wards. And it just makes you think, like, what a strange world we live in, that we can come back here and these are the problems that we're dealing with, and then we go over there and those people are
You're
dealing
talking
with
about life and livelihood and home and housing.
Do you think Israelis could be struck by something called compassion in the years?
I think, again, though, I think very many Israelis are. I mean, we met a lot of Israelis when we were in Palestine and Israel who are very compassionate. Dipu was in a cell with 2 Israelis who were stood side by side with us, protesting against the illegally built separation
and telling
barrier.
him what to do, how to get over it.
I think you've got to separate the people of Israel and the government of Israel, and I think the government of Israel are not serious partners for peace, but I think the people of Israel have the capacity and have it within them and want and desire.
But if you look this
peace.
way, you see 2 guys sitting quite shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah.
He's Pakistani, I'm Indian. Can you see a difference?
I can't, but I'm wearing my old glasses, so I can't really
Go to
see anything.
Specsavers, you'll get an extra pair. No, but what I'm saying is people to people is a very different story from politician to politician or army to army, isn't it? Or
True.
religious bigot to another religious bigot, isn't it? People are easy. I mean, India, Pakistan, look at all the journalists that come to India. They're highly regarded. Musicians, they're carried on the shoulder, you
True,
know.
Rahat
Ali and all.
Yes.
Who's got a problem? When they play cricket, there's such fun.
One thing I would like to say.
Jay, don't touch the mic. It makes a very bad cracky sound. Yeah.
Is it? Okay. So one thing I would like to say, actually, the rule of law is very important. Today, we are in Newcastle. Irrespective of our color, culture, race, and religion, we are working hard to have a racial harmony, community cohesion, and we're living very peacefully here.
Yeah.
Because the rule of law.
It's true. That's true.
And justice is being provided. So actually, if the justice is being provided to the international level as well, so I think there would be peace there as well.
And the point I want to add on to your point is, if we are so lucky as to have all these good qualities in a very civilized country, we should care about people who are not getting it.
That's
We
right.
shouldn't say, "Oh, I'm fine now. Never mind what happens in Palestine. What's it got to do with you?"
No, we shouldn't.
It has everything to do with me.
Exactly.
If they are not free, I'm not free. That's how I feel.
Because the world has shrunk because of media communication.
There's a phone
So
call.
we know that
Hello,
things are
caller.
so close to us.
Hello, good evening.
I think this is Iftikhar Khan.
Yes. yes.
Farmai, what have you heard so far?
Good evening, Doc, and good evening to the gentlemen.
There's a
in the
whole
studio.
panel here.
I've been listening attentively to the discussion. I've been vigorously making notes. Very, very extremely useful and interesting discussion going on. And some excellent points are being made. I just want to take a few minutes and just
Please, go
read
ahead.
out what I've written
Take your
here, and absorbed what's been said. I hope everybody in the studio will be able to hear me. I know
Yeah, there's
not enough headphones,
there's
but,
4 headphones which are on and 2 are not bothered. They've fallen
a
asleep.
number of points. First of all, I'd like to thank Alderman Sajawal Khan Saab for 3 or 4 occasions bringing the conversation back to the rule of law and to the point of justice. If you imagine that if there was no fairness and justice in society in Britain and nobody enforced the law, would this be a peaceful society?
No, it wouldn't. You're quite
There
right.
would be chaos. There would be small groups of people fighting the establishment. There would be total, complete chaos. So why are we expecting the Palestinians to be very subtle and very calm and very accepting of the situation in order to compromise for some kind of utopian peace when there's no sense of justice there?
Not at all.
Complete inhumanity there.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's like saying, and then we have a discussion about Hamas and maybe if Hamas did this or Hamas did that, but then that's like saying that the French resistance to the Nazi occupation of France should have been a non-violent one.
Yeah, true.
You know, how can we say that? You know, we can't say that. It's like saying that every oppressed country in the world, in the history of the world, should have opposed the violent killing and genocides and oppressions by non-violence. It doesn't always work.
No.
And if we are to then put Hamas in that category, I don't agree with any kind of killing. Let me just make that very clear. I don't agree with any kind of killing. But Hamas's struggle is a symbolic one. It's a resistance. And their pitiful attempts at throwing a few firecrackers at the Israelis, and as you said, Doc, maybe killed 5 people, whilst the figure was between 1,500 to 2,500 on the Palestinian side.
There was 1,410 civilians, 500 children, and the rest were soldiers. So
Yes,
Hamas
yes.
has killed nothing really.
That's right. Really, do people have a right to resist? When Hamas wasn't there, was the situation any better? Was the land grab not happening? For the last 65 years, what's Israel been doing? It's been grabbing land. it's been building these so-called settlements. It's been encroaching. It's basically usurping, as you said before, and other friends in the studio have said, usurping the land. It's the land grab is the issue. If Israel is serious about some kind of peace, then justice should prevail, and it should be seen as a just and fair nation, not just by its supporting the countries in the West, but by the whole world. It has to be seen to be fair and just. But the problem is, it was never fair and just. The problem is,
it started on a bad footing, yeah?
The United Nations resolutions, which were voted upon in that body, however useful or not useful that body is, the resolutions are there. And Israel is refusing to comply by those resolutions.
Yes.
So until it does that, there is no point having discussions about peace, because peace has to. The price for peace is only being paid by the Palestinians. What is Israel doing? It's actually gaining.
More land.
And every time, to be honest, every time, there has been the PLO, Yasser Arafat, who laid down their weapons and said, okay, we're not going to fight you. Okay, we will compromise. Okay, we will let you keep what you have stolen from us.
Let's stop at that. Yes.
Stop it at that point, and agreed to like a kind of a two-state solution and so on and so forth, right? And agreed to recognize the state of Israel. But did that stop them from grabbing lands? It's actually
they just carried on.
Of the roadmap to peace was consistently done by Israel. Hamas and Councillor David Stockdale mentioned a very, very important point.
Stockdale.
He said that beneath the surface there is a complexity. There's so many complex things that probably we don't even understand.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
When it appeared that Israel was under pressure to comply because PLO and Yasser Arafat basically decided, okay, we'll go down the peace route, right? We'll go down peaceful means and peaceful negotiations. Then it is, in many quarters, it is claimed by many analysts that Hamas was, Israel eagerly helped the development of the organization Hamas in order to destabilize the peace process. To give it an excuse about its own security to derail the peace process. I mean, there's many things underneath
it's much more.
Really
under the quiet waters or in the turbulent waters, there's even more storms. Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
Absolutely.
Can we ask
the other point I wanted to make? That,
go on then, make it then.
I've heard saying the majority of Israeli citizens want peace. Really? Are they willing to give back the land that they've stolen? Is all the peaceful people of Israel willing to vote in a referendum to give back land and remove the settlement?
I think it's a rhetorical question. I agree with you.
Yeah, no. So you see, there was the old adage: if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem.
Absolutely.
The whole of the Western world championed the cause of the anti-apartheid movement. I did as well. I went on the marches. I supported that. We all did, right? But the slogan of the movement, of the anti-apartheid movement, was to all those people who are complicit by their silence. Whether that's Israeli people living in Israel, or whether that's us people living in the West, or our Western governments, right? If you're not complicit in the problem, and you want to be a solution to the problem, you have to be part of the solution.
All right. Okay. Listen, I'll ask David Stockdale to respond to some of the points you raised, because I think he's very much in this discussion as someone who has an authority. David, what do you think of all the points raised by?
Nice to speak to you again. Well, I think the first thing I should declare is that you're speaking to a pacifist here, so I have a particular view about war and fighting that may or may not comply or correlate with your own. But my view is, again, simple-minded person, so I'll put it in simple terms. I think my view is that peace achieved through peaceful means is a lasting peace, and I think
a war is a very short term.
Yeah, and I think the road of violence and the road of war for the Palestinians is a road to nowhere, because they simply, it's not a fair fight. I mean, they can't compete.
But he did say symbolic.
No, I agree. I mean, I don't think you'll ever hear me criticize the Palestinians for defend themselves or doing whatever they feel.
If you see a family blown up to smithereens.
Yeah, but I kind of just have a view on it that that in order, I said this earlier, that this is not going to be resolved by the Western world. This is not going to be resolved necessarily by the government of Palestine or the government of Israel. I think this is going to be resolved by people, like you've just given the comparison there of the anti-apartheid movement. That's exactly what this needs. And we need to get a mass movement behind it. And I think it's much easier to get a mass movement behind a group of people who've laid down their arms and who've said, look, we've tried violence, we've tried fighting, we've tried all these other things, none of it's working, we need your help. And I think that's what you're starting to see now. I mean, I genuinely do mean this when I say I think there's a sea change of attitude in this country towards the situation in Palestine.
Yes.
I mean, it's interesting since I've got back that, there's been a lot of sort of media attention around this particular incident that we went through in Berlin.
Yes.
And a consequence of that is there's been some people who've taken to social media and other things to sort of criticise us for being in Palestine in the first place. I have no truck with that argument at all. I mean, I'm not a little Englander. I'm not a small-minded person. I can recognise that the world's a big place and actually we all have a role to play in it.
Yes.
So I simply don't accept that. Miraculously, some of our opposition councillors have had phone calls complaining about Labour councillors being in Palestine. What's interesting is I haven't had a single complaint about it, so, read into that what you will.
Yeah.
I think most people sort of recognise that what's going on across there is frankly disgraceful. It's awful. And it is beholden on us, not least because we created this problem in the first place. It's beholden on us to do something about it. And I think you've been to many of the sort of protests and rallies that we've had in Newcastle.
I've seen it,
and you've seen the number of people that have been involved in that. We
Increasing
need to maintain
numbers.
that.
Yes,
We need to maintain that. We
yes.
need to keep this in the public eye. We need people not to forget it. We can't allow people to forget it. We need to buy into campaigns that will put pressure on the government of Israel to end this occupation. And what I'm certainly not going to do is pick up arms and go and fight. That's not who I am and not what I'm about. And I take your points on board completely. You've clearly put a lot of thought into what you've said, and but I have a particular view on it, and I think actually what we're starting to see in this country, and if that's replicated in other countries across Europe and across the world, then we've got a real opportunity if we can just build on this movement that we've got. If we can just build on it and continue to put pressure on our government to do something about the situation across there, then I think we'll start to see some change. I really do think there's a sea change of attitude here, and I think it's a lot easier for people to get behind a country, Palestine, when they've laid down their arms and have said, we are committed to peace, and to show you that we're going to put our arms down first. And I kind of think that's something that I can get behind. It's very difficult. It's very difficult, in my opinion, anyway, to get behind peace and violence and war. That isn't going to achieve anything. More fighting is just going to result in one thing: more death.
Okay.
Peace is better than war because life is better than death. That's my simple-minded.
Jaw is better than war.
Doc, can I make a positive
Please,
suggestion?
of course. Go on.
Totally agree with David. And I think, just in case I've been misunderstood, I'm not purporting to say that, I'm not saying any way that people should take up arms. All the point I was trying to make is that the reason that organizations like Hamas have come about is simply because
of injustice.
Palestinians have lost faith.
I agree with you completely.
Yes. Okay.
No, I agree with your point. Just let me be clear here then, because I agree with your point completely. I mean, we've all got to be clear here that Hamas were democratically elected in Gaza. Now,
because people lost faith and everything else.
Of course, exactly. No, Gaza, talk about Gaza all night, it is an absolutely desperate, dire place. It's dead, basically. You turn on the tap in Gaza and you get salt water. I mean, that's how bad it is across there,
It's disgusting.
So you can understand why people have turned to
all of you guys and girls who went over, at the risk of your life and having gone through such traumatic experiences. And the great thing is that you're here now talking about it.
Yeah.
And you've seen it with your own eyes.
Yes, and
you've
smelt
seen
it and tasted it.
You've
Tasted
smelt
fear.
You tasted it in the back of your throat. And that is so important that this message goes out consistently. And I think you guys are doing a great job, and total support there. I just want to say, in a positive sense, we both mentioned the anti-apartheid movement, but I must make a little distinction here. There is a sea change can come about through people. I agree, but even in the anti-apartheid movement, until the people in the West and other countries in the world were not able to change the attitude of their governments, and the governments got behind the anti-apartheid movement, and they started owning the anti-apartheid movement. It wasn't until then that governmental pressure was not put on the racist government of South Africa.
Right. So it needs governmental pressure that we should aspire to.
Until we can the sea change, until that can actually force a change in the policies of our governments, right? And then our governments apply the sanctions, as sanctions were applied against South Africa.
Sure.
Until our governments are willing and able to apply those sanctions, you can gather millions of people.
Yes.
Can I just say one thing? You should take some hope.
Apartheid. It won't happen until our governments,
Yeah.
stop being complicit in the
If
human
you should
treatment of Palestinians.
take some solace in this. That Newcastle has some form on this, because when Nelson Mandela was in prison, and when the line of the British Tory government was that Nelson Mandela was a terrorist, Newcastle City Council, Labour-led, gave Nelson Mandela freedom to the city.
Wow.
So we've got form on this in the city.
So
and we've got to
Newcastle
build
is
on
a
that.
different breed of
And I
city.
think we need to build on that. And I think, we need to build on that. And maybe Newcastle, as you guys said before, can be a shining example.
Yeah, yeah.
And, and I stand here very clear that I want to be part of that city. I'm
Part of
proud
the solution.
That city is going to be
Yes.
that shining example.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
just hope that we can become that.
Okay.
And, for all those people, all the doubters and the haters and the people who are trying to say, why did
Ifti,
you go
another
there
call
and
is coming,
whatnot.
Ifti. Thank you.
You've probably read my comments on Facebook about
Thank
that.
you. Okay. All right. Thank you, Ifti. There's another caller. And when I switch off, it won't go to him. He'll have to ring again. Caller, please ring again. Thank you. Thanks, Ifti. Good night. Hello, caller. Please ring again. This system is very funny. When we click off, it doesn't automatically go to the next call.
Can I ask one?
Okay. Don't touch the microphone, please. It just crackles.
Okay. Can I ask one very brief question to David? Do you think is anybody behind the Hamas who can stop them to come to the table talk?
So anybody stopping Hamas?
Yes.
Relaxing.
Well, because Hamas were at the table and they were trying to talk. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but there was a willingness, I think, to engage in dialogue. I think when we were across in the West Bank last week, the
Hello, caller. Let David finish the sentence.
The thought on the ground really was that the peace in Gaza is not a lasting peace.
Hello, who's that, please?
Yes, Abdul. I was just listening to your conversation on radio.
Carry on, Abdul.
All right, yeah, but you're doing a great job, guys. So it's
Thank
very
you.
nice to hear that you talk about, the people who are suffering for years and years.
Thank you.
And,
Thank you.
I would just like you to think about the other country as well, like Kashmir.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay, let's think about Kashmir
One
next.
side is Pakistani hold the Kashmir, another side is Indian. If the Kashmiri fire rocket to India, and what will their response be?
Say that again. Didn't get your question. Say that again.
Just about the Kashmir,
And I know you're talking about Kashmir. Go on. I'm listening.
they are suffering for years and years as well, yeah?
Both sides are.
Both sides. So it would be
Same
nice
with two Palestines.
to mention them sometime as well.
Sure. Okay. All right. Today we've come back from Gaza. So that's rather not Gaza. We've come back from Palestine. That's why Palestine is the focus. And we spent 5 days there and seen and smelt. Otherwise, we read about Kashmir. We haven't been there. So, if we went to Kashmir, probably we'd come back with the same feelings, as you're quite rightly saying. Yeah?
Right. Anyway, thanks very much, brother. But
Thank you.
It's nice to hear from the people,
Thank you.
Because you are in the studio, yeah?
Thank you.
So it would be nice to hear the people who are suffering everywhere. It's not only
Yes.
in Palestine,
Yes. Okay. All right.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Yeah. We have about, I think, 10 minutes. Any points that you haven't raised? Anything you want to do? Anything direction we can give this in Newcastle being a special city where there's so many people involved in this issue? Shumel, you got a twinkling in your eye.
And do it really. I think it's just a case of roughly about 20 of us went there, and 20 of us came back.
Yes, thankfully even Dipu came back.
Alhamdulillah, yeah. And we all have stories. We all have different stories.
We are all
to
in
tell.
pain, We all hurt.
And
Seeing what we have seen.
Yeah, definitely, massively. I go to bed thinking about Palestine, and I wake up thinking about Palestine, and everything I relate back to my family, and think, what if my family?
If my child was there,
yeah,
if my baby,
situation.
my wife, my father, whoever, yes.
Well, I definitely think we had dinner today, didn't we? We sat down. There's quite a few of us there, and I think we're all going through the same thing, and we all have stories and things we want to share, and it's getting that message out there. So I would say if anyone wants us to speak on a one-to-one level or in groups, or
Yes.
you want to speak to any of us, please.
If
just
anyone
ask,
wants
we're there.
information, if anyone wants a DVD which has to do with Israelis supporting the peaceful resolution.
I think Mr. Sajawal Khan raised a very good question, which you should all ponder about in your future discussions with the people or the society or the movement that is there for the protection of the Palestinians' rights. Mr. Sajawal Khan mentioned that is there a way that Hamas can be brought to the table to discuss peace? So there could be a possibility of this whole thing ending at some stage.
Well, there's one unifying figure, and that's Marwan Barghouti, who we talked about before, and he's been described as the Palestinian Nelson Mandela. And so I think if there's one person that's going to bring them all together, it's this gentleman.
Where is he?
In jail.
He's in jail. He's
Like Nelson Mandela.
He's with the Israeli prison.
He's been, I think it's about 12 years he's been incarcerated for so far. So basically, in order to move forward, I would say that's probably a key element.
If he's a man for peace, why are the Israelis holding him in prison? They should release him and go to and discuss this with Fatah and Hamas and bring them all to the table, and discussion could take place.
But the worry for Israel may be that then they'll actually have to accede to the point of...
Do they really want peace?
It'll make it very difficult. David wants to say something.
Can I just answer your question in terms of what people can do? Because there'll be people
Yes,
listening who are wondering what they can do. There's a few practical things that you can do. The first is join the Newcastle Palestine Solidarity Campaign, because that will do two things. One, it'll keep you up to date on what's going on the ground in Newcastle and what we're doing to support the people of Palestine. The second thing it will do is it'll keep you informed and keep you up to date with information on the situation on the ground in Palestine.
Right.
I think that's a practical thing that you can do. I think another thing that you can do is don't buy goods that are manufactured and produced in
settler territory.
Exactly, in Palestinian territories, and you've got to be very careful because they'll sometimes be labelled products of Israel. They're not. They're products produced by Israeli companies who have based themselves illegally in Palestine. So look up on the internet the boycott, divestment and sanctions campaign. That'll give you
second boycott, investment, divestment.
Boycott, divestment and sanctions BDS campaign, and
BDS,
and that'll give you information how to do that. Write to your local councillors and put pressure on them to do what they can do. Write to your members of parliament and put pressure on them to say that we've had enough of this and we want the government and we want the councils to do something about it. Do that, please, because that's important. We've got to build a sort of movement behind this, and doing all those things. There's some practical suggestions, some things that you can do. Get involved, keep speaking, speak out, make phone calls, talk to your friends about it, use social media. Just don't let this issue
agree or disagree, but don't let the issue die.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you are taking another shipment of people.
Yeah, we're going to take another. There's going to be another group going to Palestine in the new year. So if anybody has an interest in going across there, get in touch with me. Just send me an email.
Get in touch with you because you always get them out of prison.
David.stockdale@newcastlelabour.org.uk.
David.stockdale.
David.stockdale@newcastlelabour.org.uk, or just follow me on Twitter @DavidStockdale. It's a shameless plug, that, isn't it?
No. Why should it be shameful?
Or visit my website, socialistsneversleep.com. There you go. That's
socialistsneversleep.com.
Socialistsneversleep.com. It's the best blog site in Newcastle.
Wow.
It's not actually, but it's pretty good.
But if you say that, it becomes true.
Yeah.
We tell a lie 10,000 times. Goebbels said, I think. Okay, so we're coming to the time. There's still 5-6 minutes left. I think we should just carry on. I'm not saying every of our shows should be, but this Palestine ought to be mentioned. There are people dying there, hungry there, lonely there, despondent there.
I think David mentioned something very valuable. It said that don't allow the issue to die. And give it a support mechanism by joining Palestine Solidarity Campaign and also comply with BDS, which is...
Isn't there something, Shumel, that they put stickers on? Where do you get those stickers?
Yeah, there's a campaign where you put stickers on goods, settlement goods.
So you're going to Asda, you're going to any of these shops, Morrison's, and see something. Do you read the label and say made in Israel, or
Me personally, I always check the label. I always look at what I'm buying, even if I'm in the West End of Newcastle and I'm looking for dates. That's a very common thing. That
I thought you were a married guy. You're looking for dates.
don't tell my wife.
Thought of the same thing too.
Yes. So, say this when you check the dates and what do you find?
Yeah, just make sure that it's not made
In
Israel or settlement.
Okay. So you have a sticker that you put on.
Yeah.
But the guy who's looking at the TV monitor in the control room, security, he'll see you putting a sticker on. Can he not arrest you or threaten you or trouble
Obviously,
you?
I haven't personally ever put a sticker.
No,
on.
but I'm saying if you did, they have a right to say you can't do that.
Well, they can. They can throw you out the shop.
That's the worst.
That's their right. But
Okay.
obviously, everyone's got a responsibility for themselves, and they have to think about what they're doing.
So really, you can avoid doing. But it's more the awareness. I mean, you might not send Israel 10 pence or 15 pence.
I think it's awareness for yourself, but it's awareness for your family, for your friends, if you own a business.
Okay.
Think
Why
about
don't
what you're
people
doing.
drink Coke anymore?
Bad for you.
Too much sugar. Yeah.
Well, it's got boric acid or some acid in it. No, but is all the Coke money goes to Israelis or what? There's some connection.
It's a corporation, isn't it? So the whole of the money isn't going to go to Israel, but they don't talk about some links and funding. So people do boycott Coke. Obviously, you have to think about, do your research yourself, look at what you're doing, go on the BDS.
Become more aware.
Yeah, look on the BDS, the Boycott, Divestment and Sanctions website. You know, take your guidance from people that know what they're doing, not just Billy from the corner or your friend down the road who said, "Oh no, you shouldn't be doing this." Look at what you're doing. You do your own research. Look into it. Think about what you're doing.
So BDS.
BDS.
If you type just BDS, that's not enough. Do you have to write something more in Google?
BDS should come up.
Okay.
Or BDS campaign. Have a look.
BDS campaign, okay. So that's something more we can do. Anything else that's planned? What's the next event that's happening?
Oh, I might have to hand over to David for that one.
David?
You got to join the Newcastle Palestine Solidarity Campaign, Doc, and it will keep you up to date on everything that's going on. So,
that's a very good point.
Well, you type BDS, it comes out with British Downhill Series.
that's not it. No.
That's not
Now you can read it.
That's true. Yes, right there.
I'll tell you my position on
British
this,
Diving Society.
No, it's the Boycott, Divestment and Sanctions Campaign.
So you have to
Just
write the
Google
word boycott.
Boycott, divest and sanctions. Or you can do what I do and don't purchase
don't
anything from Israel until such a time as they end their illegal occupation of Palestine and their blockade of the West Bank, Gaza.
Yeah.
If you type boycott divestment, it comes up with BDS Palestine Solidarity Campaign, introducing boycott. So it's boycott divestment, DIVESTMENT.
The easiest thing,
And
I mean,
sanctions.
you can go on the Palestine Solidarity Campaign website and there's links to everything on there.
Okay.
I mean, really, I can't recommend membership to that organisation enough. It's really the engine behind everything that's going on, you know. So please join. We need more
That's
members.
really important, isn't it?
Yeah.
And they really pull everyone together.
Right.
Okay, really good organisation.
Cultural and academic boycott is another thing that could happen.
And the sports boycott as well. That's a really good one to mention.
I think it's very important if they're boycotted out of sports. It's quite important to make a stand in that, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Case against Hewlett Packard. Don't buy SodaStream. Case against G4S. Sainsbury reply to a campaign. C4 jump for occupation.
Should be
Complaint
a
to 27. There's
Veolia
loads
as
of
well.
stuff there, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, we are now coming to the end of the day and the end of my energy levels and the end of the show.
Thank you,
gentlemen, very much. I must thank everyone in datal order. Thank you, Syed, for being the oldest person in
Thank
the
you,
room.
Doc.
Then Sajawal Khan Saab, then David Stockdale, and then the two Ronnies from the same class,
Right.
the same naughty boys class, my two ex-patients. Because they're not my patients anymore, they're much healthy. They're at risk of getting jailed, but at least they're healthy. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Good night. Have a good evening. Bye for now.
Thank
you, Doc.
But you have to be careful when you send all this person. Because you are all.
Yeah, but I'm the one on the mic, so it doesn't matter. That's why I'm on the mic, so I can say what I like. He's 3 months younger to me.
It can run properly. And then next thing you know, there was rubber bullets flying right next to me. You know, you can feel them, that they're whizzing past me. They wanted to get me. And basically, what I did is I said, look, I can't outrun I might outrun the soldiers, but I can't outrun the rubber bullets. So I turned around, put my hands up, and said, look, come on, get me.
So we've got pictures to prove that as well.
Obviously,
But why did they go after you individually and not any other person?
maybe because I fell behind because of my twisted ankle. I don't know. At that time, everything was vague. Everything was because at that time, it was blurred. Everything was blurred. I was just concentrating on running and running away from the IDF. So next thing you know is I put my hands up and said, look, they came along, 6 of them together, pointing their guns towards me, and they held me, and then they eventually took me. And I said, look, I'm an international observer, I'm a British citizen, I'm a politician, what the hell are you doing? They said, shut your mouth, shut your mouth, shut your mouth. I was hobbling at that time, so look, I've got twisted ankle, take it easy.
Right.
So eventually they took me to a military vehicle, put me in the vehicle, and then handcuffed me, and then handcuffed me. Then slowly the military vehicle took me behind the wall.
Back through the gate.
And once I got there, I seen bits what's going on. There was a bit of a bench. There's a lot of Israeli officials there, IDF. And then they got my scarf and they blindfolded me.
With his own scarf?
With my own scarf, quite tight. I said, what the hell are you doing? I'm a British politician. What the hell are you doing? They go, shut your mouth, shut your mouth. At that point, I was obviously quite distressed because I was quite confused what's going on, especially when you're blindfolded. You do not know if they're going to shoot you next or what have you. I said, look, release me. I'm a British politician. What the hell are you doing? They said, shut your mouth. They kicked my injured foot because, they knew it was twisted and I was in distress. They kicked that. They kicked my injured foot, and then somebody said, I said, what the hell? I said, what are you doing? Another guy then I can feel, hit me with his gun. Obviously I'm blindfolded still.
With the butt of the gun.
Yeah, I don't know which bit of the gun, but I can feel a metal, piece or a hard piece hit me on the left side of the shoulder.
Oh boy.
And then I said, look, I just shut my mouth and I just said, look, I need you to relax myself. At that point, my mouth was dry, you'd been tear gassed, and I couldn't speak properly. I said, look, can you give me some water? They again said, shut your mouth, shut your mouth. Eventually, somebody got me water, and they put it towards my lips, and they keep on withdrawing it.
But not letting him drink the water.
They're teasing me, basically.
Taunt him, tease him.
It's terrible. It's a kind of a torture. At that particular moment, you must have been distressed.
Emotional.
At the first half an hour, I was quite distressed. So basically, then what happened was, they were teasing me. There was 7 IDF. You can vaguely see them. 7 or 8 IDF surrounded me, and
IDF means Israeli Defense Force. People.
And they were watching me and mocking me. They were laughing, mocking me, and taking selfies with me. So I'm in a distress, and they're taking pictures while I was sitting there in distress. They were taking pictures. I can hear the click of the camera, and they were doing that for a while. So I was blindfolded for at least an hour and a half. Obviously, you won't know the time properly because obviously, you haven't got a watch with you. I said, look, in my pocket, there's a business card of me being a politician. Take that out. Take that out. They told me to shut up. Eventually, somebody put their hands in my pocket and took some of the business cards. Again, I can hear them laughing, ripping it, and mocking me and joking around. And, then said, you Palestinian, you're Palestinian, you're Arab, you're Arab, you're Arab. They're mocking me like that and all laughing.
Terrible.
Then the second bit is after that, an hour and a half, around an hour and a half. I won't know the time properly. They took me towards. They took me to another police station, where it was 5 minutes drive. It was a military zone police station. It was still in the West Bank, obviously, in the occupied territory. They sat me down for a while. At that point, they did take my blindfold off, and I still had the handcuffs on. At that point. Sorry, going back, the initial bit, Berlin, when they kicked me and mocked me, took the pictures on me. At that point, there's another Israeli who come, and he had been arrested as well. And he said to me, whispered in my ears, he goes, don't worry about it, just keep calm, don't worry. And I can hear the Israelis condemning him, saying, shut up. And obviously Hebrew, I couldn't understand, but I assumed it was Hebrew. Right. So I went to the second police station, and they put me there for 2-3 hours. I was in distress. My ankle was so swollen, it was like the size of a small football. It was really bad.
Oh, my God.
And what I was doing...
Instead of saying, take you to a hospital,
Yeah.
a clinic.
So
And he's unarmed, by the way.
Yeah,
So
totally unarmed, and you're handcuffed as well, which is
It's
another.
unnecessary.
yeah.
And by the way, in the picture there you'll see there's
Exactly.
3 to the left and 3 to the right. It takes 6, 18, 20-year-olds to put Dipu down.
I would have
Who's not
thought
even
the
protesting.
IOF would be more considerate, the Israeli Offence Force, as I call them.
Yeah, so basically after that, I was sat there for 2-3 hours. I put some water. There was the other Israeli. There's another Israeli guy was captured. One's a barrister and one's a humanitarian. So both of them were sat next to me, and basically one of the Israelis. He said, don't worry about it, keep calm. And he offered me water, and they condemned him, said, sit down. They wouldn't
Did you get to drink the water then?
Eventually I did, because the Israeli helped me, and then he got a bottle can from the vendor machine. He paid. He had some change.
Okay.
It was a vendor machine, thankfully, and he got a can of Coke and wrapped it around my ankle.
Wow.
Anyways, then what happened was but we were there for 3-4 hours just sitting there doing nothing, and then the Israelis come along, took me to this room and said, sign this. And in this room, basically, they were sitting there watching TV. There was plasma screens and all sorts.
Okay.
And they said, sign this. I said, what's this? They said, well, to say that we did not harm you in any way. And they were so arrogant, it's unbelievable.
Was this document in English?
No, this one is in Hebrew.
Which he doesn't read.
I said to him, look, you did harm
You
me.
could be signing your life away.
Yeah, you did harm me. You did hit me. I'm not going to sign this. He goes, sign. So I said, look, it's best to just sign it, because I wanted to get out as soon as possible.
And not be beaten up further.
And then
you could have been tortured.
Okay, and then what happened was they come up with another form about half an hour later, handwritten Hebrew, saying sign. I goes, why am I signing this? They said sign. So the other Israeli who was captured goes, they said that they offered you medical support. I goes, they did not offer me any medical support. I've been distressed for 3-4 hours. Then eventually I said, look, it's best to just sign it, abide by what they're saying, do not get into an argument, and sign it.
During this time when you were signing the documents, where were these Israeli boys who'd been captured as well, or arrested?
They were in the same room as me.
But could they confirm that this document was okay to sign?
Yeah, the barrister guy,
right?
He told me, look, this is what he's saying. He read it for me.
Okay.
And he was quite confident because he's a barrister.
Right.
So basically, I wanted to go to the toilet and what have you. They won't allow me to go to the toilet, but eventually, when I did, they stood in the not. Very good.
नमस्ते, आदाब, सत श्री अकाल। आज यावर जी का दिन था, मगर यावर जी आज ना आ सकेंगे. Very kindly, he's offered the show to us, but he didn't offer it. We took it off him, and I'm grateful still that we have to keep alive the issue of Palestine. The reason I'm speaking in English because we are expecting some English people to come. Dipu, is David coming?
He's coming 10-15 minutes.
Okay, so David's coming, so we don't have, and Dipu's Hindi is so not brilliant
it's
either.
Fantastic, my Hindi.
All he says is khamosh.
Khamosh. My headphone's not working.
Your headphone, why should it work? At least your mouth is working.
I like to hear my voice.
We don't, so it's okay. Very good evening to you, everybody. Dipu, welcome home. I'm glad you're back to your twins.
I still can't hear myself, Doc.
You don't have to. Just plug elsewhere and check what's working. Just try plugging elsewhere. Look at him. He's not even plugged and he can't hear. What do you think? Is the IDF?
I still can't hear myself.
But just plug into different holes and see what comes out. So anyway, here we are with Dipu Ahad, the guy who was arrested by IDF for 8 hours. He thinks 15 hours. I think some people are claiming he was kept overnight. And the story is a bit like Abu Ben Adam, may his tribe increase.
True.
But the truth is, Dipu, while the others are not here, let's talk about what Syed doesn't know what happened on that particular day. Let's just talk about Bilin for now, because when the others come, we'll expand the story.
Do I get my headphones first?
Well, try some, see if anything works.
Snatch another one and put it on.
Yeah, this is Spice, How do you expect anything to work? You got anything?
No.
Well, I can't do a show and be running as well.
Take the third one.
Just take any headphone, plug anywhere.
Leave it, we do with the headphones.
Okay, we'll do without headphones. Chalo. Jodi production ke unashe tobe headphone bina cholo re. So, Dipu, just what happened? Let's tell Syed and the listeners, thank you for listening.
Yes.
On Friday, about 2 o'clock, we arrived in Bilin, 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 right?
and I got a bit lost because I went to get my stand. And there was a huge Irish contingent who were very brave, They had proper Irish Palestinian flags.
Right.
So I got talking to them, and it was so hot. I got tired. I got lost. I said, "Chodo, nahi hoga." I'm just sweating. Camera is heavy, and so on. Then suddenly there was a press fellow who was going. He said, "Do you need help?" I said, "Yes." So he took me to where I almost gave up on, and that is to near the wall. Dipu, describe. You've been there before.
Okay, Bilin is.
Keep talking. I'll see if I can get to the headphone.
It's in West Bank, and what they've done is the Israelis for many years, as you know, as everyone knows, there's an apartheid wall which goes all around Palestine, grabbing land, blockading Palestinian land, taking Palestinian land.
Is this the land that the wall that divides Jerusalem from Hebron, or
no? This the whole wall actually divides, the so-called the occupied territories from Israel. So basically, and it's a wall. Yeah, I can hear myself now. So it's a wall which is
mine's gone. Stop.
Not very.
Oh, carry on talking. Never mind.
So basically, let's make it clear. So basically, this wall, the wall is, if you know Palestine, there's a apartheid wall which goes throughout Palestine, which grabs a lot of the Palestinian land.
Tell us in your voice. What is the quarrel at Bilin about? What is the protest about that wall? Tell us about that wall.
So basically, I went towards. So I was looking for Dr. Anand, and at that time there was a lot of tear gas. So the tear gas were of. Obviously, I was towards the back by then, and we just started going towards the wall, and so there was a lot of tear gas. So what I had to divert my the way I was walking because of the tear gas, and it was obviously quite heavy, and it's hard to breathe, and you can see your visibility was minimized, and basically reduced, and basically. Eventually, went towards the front looking for Dr. Anand, and obviously avoiding tear gas, and I was right in front of the wall. And I thought it would be safe there, standing next to the international community, meaning the media. So there's a lot of media there. So there
was 5 or 6 cameramen with proper press written across.
Oh, okay.
Some of them had gas masks on. These are proper people who interview people, not like me, a new kid on the block.
Big protest which goes on Friday.
But that was only about 40, 50 international people that day and that time, and there was no threat to nobody.
And who was protesting then?
We had gone to observe. I got lost because I went to the bus to get my tripod.
Right.
Okay. So I got a tripod. These guys in the meantime went elsewhere. It was hot, sweaty, and it's not flat land. You can't see anybody. It's like, tea gardens. It's like terraces.
Right.
But made of stone.
Okay.
And then you can't see each other, and the roads are windy all over the place. You just can't see.
Right.
And my phone, where was your phone, Dipu? Did you leave it in the bus, or did you carry it?
Sorry?
Did you have your phone on you?
So basically, I had my phone on me.
Now, he's the seasoned Palestinian observer.
Right.
I'm the first time. So I left my phone in the bus, saying, phone toot jayega, or they'll hit it, break it. They just don't care. Now I have no phone.
Right.
It's 41 degrees. I'm sweating. I'm carrying a camera. And Dipu's looking for me, and I'm looking for the group. And what is Dipu's crime? That he was ahead of the game, and he was seen. That's all. He didn't do anything whatsoever.
Okay, so let me just finish the story, and then we'll have a chat, because it's quite important. So basically, I stood there next to the international community, so the photographers and press. So I started filming the protest. People, there was no stone thrown whatsoever towards the wall or the Israelis who are standing behind the wall. So I stood there for a while, and at that point there wasn't many tear gas, but they were throwing bombs. They weren't like obviously bombs which would kill you, but they were bombs just to scare people off.
So they made a big impact.
Yeah, they made a big impact. So I was trying to film those, and basically there was tear gas and rubber bullets. So I stood there, and the next thing you know, the gate slowly opens. The gate.
So in the wall, there is a steel gate that slowly is creeping open.
Okay, that's in the wall that divides.
Yeah, so there's a gate
settlements
there.
From the Palestinians,
yeah. So that gate is slowly opening, and next thing you know, and I was a bit confused, everyone starts running. So I started running with them.
Running back to base, not towards the wall, away from the wall.
Away from the wall. And basically, if you see my Facebook, I've already put my film right in front of the wall. Anyway, so I start running, and because of the tear gas, I was quite heavy. I couldn't breathe properly because of the tear gas. And next thing you know, while I was running, I was actually running alongside the media.
Right.
And I twisted my ankle. I had a bad ankle from the.
You started with a bad ankle.
Okay.
And I started running, and I twisted my ankle. it was really bad because I heard it click and I thought I'd broken my ankle. So I carried on running or hobbling, and at that point the Israelis came out of the tanks and started chasing me. They started chasing me and I ran for a bit, but I thought, look, I cannot catch up with those guys. I can't breathe properly. And it's an apartheid wall. One of the wall is in Berlin, or one of the bits of the wall is in Berlin, which has took a lot of the land of the Palestinians in that area. So Berlin is a village, and for almost 19 years, almost 20 years now, there is a weekly protest in Berlin, and that happens after a Friday prayer, Jummah prayer. And after Jummah prayer, you get people marching towards the wall and protesting. Remember, it's a peaceful, non-violent protest, and people are basically coming to protest against the wall, and it's about the land grab, against the land grab. And basically, you have the international community who comes as well to this protest. So I've been there last year. Last year we had people from Holland, from France. We had hundreds of people last year. This year there wasn't as many people, but there was still an international community as well.
Was it the same time you went last year?
Yes,
I remember you sent a daily report, which I read every time it came through the Facebook.
So it's Berlin again. It's the same protest. It's quite famous. Yeah. So the 5 broken cameras, if you ever watch this documentary.
In Netflix, if you can look at 5 broken cameras, it's a real story by a real man.
Could be on YouTube as well.
No, you have to buy it. But Netflix, you just get it anyway.
I get it, yeah.
And you can see it in parts if you wish.
Right.
Okay, but tell us, Dipu, when we went, there were about a whole big busload of Irish people, French people, men and women, with the Palestinian flag. They were really brave. They were honest and strong. And they were quite happy to be themselves. We were slightly shy about... We just had a T-shirt which said what? In Hebrew?
In Hebrew it said peace, English peace, and in the bottom Arabic is peace. So
salam, shalom, and peace.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
And nothing aggravating, just a black T-shirt with saying peace.
No, gentlemen, since the two of you are the ones who've just been across to Palestine and Israel for a whole week, and I take my hats off to you, because even you won't realize as of today what the world is going through. Today I listened to Mr. Obama's speech, which was particularly set up with the United Nations meeting today in New York, particularly with the view of reminding the world and passing a resolution in respect of the ISIS or ISIL, whatever we call it. And the shocking part of it to me individually is that there is not a single word was mentioned by all these countries with respect to the killing that went on in Gaza.
The killing that's going on. So let's get back to Berlin.
Berlin and Palestinians is a dirty word for the international community. Right. So basically, basically what happened was so I was protesting and not protesting, we were observing from the international community, and obviously
the most horrible thing I had was a camera.
Oh,
nothing more than that.
It's like a weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Doc Anand, obviously, he kind of disappeared. So I was kind of looking for Doc Anand. But at that time, there was a lot of tear gas. So if the wind is blowing a certain way, it doesn't matter where you are, the tear gas will hit you.
And you call it tear gas, but it burns the skin.
It burns
your throat long before you get tears.
Exactly.
So there's something really toxic. And Azra was saying today that until today, and same here, 4-5 days you bring up a lot of sputum. It is nasty stuff.
Yeah.
And remember that microphone shouldn't be touched. It's a spice mic.
Is it just the tear gas, or has it got anything in it?
I think calling it tear gas is wrong. It's not tear gas. It's a very toxic gas.
Okay.
I'm not allergic type of person. I have no asthma, nothing. And still, my skin was burning and my throat was burning. So there's some nasty toxic stuff. And remember, we are just civilians from Britain observing the people. Now, what's the fight about?